Reborn into a rundown home with young, inexperienced parents, Korea's Elon Musk now survives on cheap baby formula and unfamiliar love. But he's far from powerless. Armed with secrets from the future, he'll rewrite his poor family's destiny and reclaim filthy rich status. And let's begin. The story begins with our protagonist, John Song-guk, being chosen as the next chairman of Samsung Group, one of Korea's top 3 conglomerates, after a grueling 13-hour shareholder meeting, and the news broadcasts his appointment as the company's new leader. Hearing this, Song-guk bursts into roaring laughter, declaring that he truly deserves the recognition and the position, savoring the moment as if he had been crowned a king. He is the true king of Samsung, Korea's next Elon Musk, the unmatched ruler of Samsung Group, and no one can compare to him. He has earned every bit of this success, having spent his entire life excelling, not just in academics, sports, and studying abroad, but also in keeping his reckless siblings in check, covering up for his irresponsible uncle, managing his wife from their arranged marriage, and handling every challenge flawlessly. On top of that, he has carefully crafted a public image, maintaining the persona of a kind-hearted philanthropist admired by netizens. Ruffling his hair and grabbing a glass of wine, Song-guk smirks, declaring that his lifelong efforts have finally paid off, and it is only natural that he has claimed the throne of Samsung. His first order of business as chairman is to cleanse the company of its lingering pests, and with a devilish grin, he decides to start by eliminating John Tae-guk's loyal followers. Suddenly, his laughter vanishes, his body stiffens as if gripped by an unseen force, his phone slips from his fingers, his breathing becomes erratic, and an excruciating pressure seizes his chest, forcing him onto his knees with trembling hands pressed against the floor. Behind him, the portrait of his grandfather, the founder of Samsung, hangs on the wall, a man who had succumbed to a heart attack, and as Song-guk's vision blurs, his mind spirals in horror, realizing that he might be following the same fate, his strength fading as darkness consumes him. The scene abruptly shifts to a completely different setting, where a young couple, a man and a woman, are holding a small child, barely 1 or 2 years old, admiring themselves in a mirror. This baby is none other than John Song-guk himself, who just moments ago was the chairman of Samsung, and now, trapped in the body of an infant, his consciousness screams as he flails wildly in his mother's arms, causing his parents to look at him in shock. The couple gently places Song-guk back in his bed, dresses him in baby clothes, and soothes him by putting a pacifier into his mouth. Looking down at her son, Kim So-young, a 21-year-old mother, beams with joy and asks her husband if their child isn't the most handsome baby she has ever seen. John Ji-sung, a 23-year-old father, nods in agreement, boasting that their son is even cuter than the children of celebrities. Watching these two lovebirds dote on him as if he were just an ordinary baby, despite the fact that he had once dominated Samsung with an iron grip, Song-guk spits out the pacifier, clenches his tiny fists in frustration, and lets out silent cries of despair. He already longs for his former self, the 183 centimeters tall, 75 kilograms powerhouse capable of lifting 500 kilograms, and now he has been reduced to this fragile, helpless little body. Once the ruler of Samsung, possessing the perfect physique and an unmatched legacy, John Song-guk now finds himself in a rundown home, wrapped in cheap clothes, born to a young orphan couple struggling to make ends meet. And to make matters worse, he didn't even get to finish that final glass of his favorite wine before he was somehow thrown into this absurd reincarnation. His mother lowers a bottle of cheap baby formula towards him, and although at first he scowls in disgust, the moment the bottle comes closer, an unfamiliar instinct kicks in. His eyes sparkle, and he grabs it eagerly, unable to resist as his infant body craves the taste. Within moments, he drains the entire bottle, and his mother, overjoyed, praises him as a good boy and plants a gentle kiss on his cheek. From reigning over the greatest day of his life to waking up in this unfamiliar world as a baby, Song-guk finds the situation utterly ridiculous, though the most difficult adjustment is his so-called parents. At first, he recoils at their affectionate gestures, flinching at their constant touches, but an unexplainable warmth creeps into his heart as he experiences, for the first time, the unconditional love of true parents. In his past life, Song-guk had never known what it was like to have present, loving parents, not because they were absent, but because they were always too busy running the family empire, leaving him under the control of his older brother, Tae-guk. Realizing that he is growing sentimental toward these two young strangers, Song-guk forces himself to snap out of it, his frustration returning as he bursts into tears, thrashing in his bed. But no matter how much resentment and rage boil inside him, his body is still that of a small child, and before he can continue his tantrum, sleep overtakes him. Those silent tears continue trickling down his cheeks. As Song-guk drifts into unconsciousness, his father, Ji-sung, sighs and announces that he will prepare dinner, telling Kim to rest, though she insists on helping, only for Ji-sung to gently refuse and turn on the TV for her. The screen flickers to a news channel, where a reporter discusses the latest scandal. Samsung Group's chairman, John Justin, has been exposed in the infamous Apple box bribery case, and after an intense investigation, he was forced to personally address the allegations. At that moment, Song-guk's eyes snap open, his body jerks upright, startling his mother, who had just tucked him in moments ago. His gaze sharpens as he stares at the TV screen, where he sees a familiar face, his grandfather, John Justin, alive and much younger than he had been in Song-guk's past life. Completely drawn into the unexpected and shocking news, Song-guk moves closer to the TV, sitting just inches away, his eyes fixed on the screen as he watches his grandfather in a wheelchair being escorted to the court. Seeing her child pressing so close to the TV, practically gluing his eyes to the screen, Kim gasps in shock. But Song-guk doesn't care what she or his father thinks of him, his entire focus locked onto his grandfather, because he remembers that this exact moment had happened before when he was just 10 years old. In the past, his grandfather had been taken to court for allegedly bribing politicians with boxes of apples, and those who feared the growing power of the Samsung company condemned it as a corrupt business that resorted to bribery. In his previous life, Song-guk had been the one pushing his grandfather's wheelchair, and that was the moment he had his first exposure to the cameras, his official debut to the world, marking him as the future heir of the company. But now, standing in his place is John Tae-guk, Song-guk's greedy and foolish brother, whose mere sight makes young Song-guk scowl in disgust. In his past life, Tae-guk had gone abroad to study, but instead of learning anything useful, he indulged in reckless habits, becoming an arrogant troublemaker who always coveted Song-guk's rightful position. Pressing his hands against the TV screen, Song-guk lowers his head, his heart sinking, and at that moment he suddenly bursts into wails, shocking his parents with his unusual outburst as the realization hits him. He is about to lose his destiny, his position, and everything he worked for. As the day fades into night, Song-guk remains before the TV, fuming with rage, and when his mother tries to feed him, he slaps her hand away, making her heart ache at how unrecognizable her son's behavior has become. Just then, Jiseong steps into the apartment, a wide smile on his face as he announces that his boss gave him some leftover meat today, holding up a small bag, proud of his job as a chef in a pork restaurant. As he heads toward the kitchen to prepare the meat, Kim quickly grabs his hand, stopping him, and gestures toward Song-guk, telling him that their son has been glued to the TV for hours without rest. She adds that every time she tries to change the channel, Song-guk immediately starts crying, and hearing this, Jiseong reassures her that he will handle it, stepping forward with a cheerful wave, inviting Song-guk to play. But instead of responding, Song-guk grips Jiseong's finger tightly, his expression darkening, his gaze sharp and filled with an eerie intensity, his teeth clenched in a silent warning. Struck with fear, Jiseong instinctively takes a step back, while Song-guk simply turns back to the TV, his dark eyes locked onto the screen, deep shadows forming underneath them from hours of relentless focus. The reason for his obsession is simple. He is desperately gathering every possible detail about the current situation, searching for a way to return to his rightful body. Having finally had enough of his behavior, Kim turns off the TV, and though Song-guk immediately tries to cry, she lifts him into her arms, telling him he needs to rest, but her words only make him wail even louder, his tears spilling uncontrollably. The real reason behind his crying is the overwhelming frustration and sorrow of knowing that after all the struggles and sacrifices he made to secure his place as Samjin's heir, he is about to lose everything to his undeserving older brother when he should be the one and only true successor. Gently rocking Song-guk, Kim tries to comfort him, pressing him against her chest, giving him a warm and reassuring embrace, and somehow, the familiar feeling of safety slowly calms his racing thoughts, his emotions settling just enough for him to drift into sleep in his mother's arms. Resting a hand on Kim's shoulder, Jiseong looks at her with concern and softly asks if she is alright, and with a worried expression, she admits that she is deeply troubled, pointing out that Song-guk is nearly a year old yet hasn't spoken his first words and watches the news as if he understands everything. Understanding her distress, Jiseong gently wraps his arms around both his wife and son, holding them close, and reassures her with a firm voice that everything will be alright and that Song-guk will grow to be the best son. Days pass, and by now, Song-guk is drowning in frustration and despair, having spent every moment watching the news, pretending to sleep just to overhear reports, forcing his parents to let him watch, yet failing to gain anything useful from it. Seeing him sit there like a child burdened with the weight of the world, Kim approaches him with a smile and asks if he won't be watching the news today, then lifts him into her arms, cheerfully saying they should go for a walk as she steps out of the apartment. Once outside, she takes in a deep breath, gazes up at the sky with bright eyes, and excitedly comments on how beautiful the weather is today. Just as she spots the landlady walking by and calls out to ask if she is heading to work, the landlady, looking somewhat displeased at the sight of Kim, responds that she had some errands earlier and is running a bit late, before turning away and walking off without much interest in further conversation. After a short walk, they arrive at the market, which is located just beneath a construction site, and with a pleased expression, Kim notes that things are much cheaper here, adding with a smile that she will make Songguk a refreshing bean sprout dish today. But Songguk doesn't share her enthusiasm, knowing all too well that the only thing he can consume right now is baby formula. Just then, from the top of the construction site, two large metal pillars begin swaying, and to Songguk's horror, they suddenly come crashing down, right toward the very spot where Kim is standing with him in her arms. Spotting the metal bars at the last moment, Kim grips Songguk tightly, turning her back toward the falling danger to shield him as they crash down on her, sending a cloud of dust and smoke into the air. The landlady, who was nearby, rushes over in alarm, calling out Kim's name as his wide eyes stare at his mother, his face filled with horror, his heart pounding with fear at the thought of losing her. A few minutes later, the scene shifts to the hospital, where nurses hurry to push Kim on a stretcher toward the emergency operating room, and a doctor, catching sight of Kim, seems to recognize her before immediately beginning treatment. Later that evening, Kim slowly regains consciousness and opens her eyes, only to see her husband, Jiseon, sitting nearby, watching over her, and the moment he notices she is awake, he rushes to her side, anxiously asking if she is alright. However, Kim does not concern herself with her own well-being and, with urgency in her voice, asks if Songguk is safe, to which Jiseon reassures her by pointing to the edge of the bed, where Songguk is sitting. Reaching out her arms, Kim pulls Songguk close, holding him tightly against her chest, her heart overflowing with relief, while Songguk, feeling a strange warmth spread through him, begins to tear up at the sight of his mother safe. Clutching the fabric of her clothes, Songguk buries his face in her embrace, his small body shaking as he cries with all his might, overwhelmed by gratitude, while Kim gently pats his back in comfort. Once the emotional reunion settles, Kim takes a glance around the hospital room, noting its luxurious appearance, and voices her concern about how expensive it must be. Jiseon, his face turning a slight shade of red, hesitates before explaining that the doctors insisted Kim needed absolute rest because she is currently expecting a child. Kim's breath catches in her throat as she gasps in shock, her eyes widening in surprise upon learning she is pregnant, while Jiseon, pressing his forehead against hers, tells her to focus on resting and not to worry about anything else. Just then, a nurse steps into the room and informs Jiseon that visiting hours are nearly over, signaling that it is time for him to leave. With no other choice, Jiseon exits the hospital with Songguk, and once outside, he sighs, mentioning that although their home is far away, they should walk back since they do not have the money for transportation. Songguk watches in silence, overwhelmed by the sight of his father, Jiseon, working tirelessly to provide for them and his mother's sacrifices, and, moved by emotion, calls out Dad for the first time, leaving Jiseon stunned. A week later, after Kim is discharged from the hospital, it is Songguk's first birthday, and his parents prepare a variety of sweets, dressing him in a beautiful traditional Korean outfit. The young couple beams with joy, utterly enchanted by how adorable Songguk looks in his outfit, unable to resist capturing the moment with countless photos, especially Kim, whose excitement knows no bounds as she admires her son like a precious angel. However, in stark contrast to their excitement, Songguk does not appear remotely pleased and instead seems rather irritated by all the attention, feeling suffocated by the excessive doting, as he is an adult in a child's body and has little interest in celebrations. The reason behind his frustration lies in his awareness that his parents are struggling financially, barely managing to pay the hospital bills, forced to walk long distances just to save on bus fare, and yet, they still spent money on sweets and new clothes for his birthday. Despite his initial reluctance, Songguk gradually realizes that what his parents have given him is something beyond material value, something that cannot be measured by money. It is pure and selfless love, the kind only parents can offer, and with that understanding, he finds himself feeling truly grateful. Over the past week, while Kim was in the hospital, Songguk made a firm decision to take action, knowing that if things continue as they are, his parents will never escape poverty, and without proper savings, it is only a matter of time before they face financial disaster. While these thoughts weigh heavily on his mind, the sudden ringing of the doorbell interrupts his train of thought, and from outside, the landlady's voice calls out, requesting them to open the door, prompting Kim to answer it. Standing at the doorstep, the landlady looks at Kim and Jiseon with a serious expression and, without hesitation, reveals that she has an offer for them, asking if they have ever considered letting Songguk become a child actor. One of the most renowned production companies in Korea is currently searching for a child actor and has announced public auditions. And following the landlady's suggestion, Kim takes Song-guk to the building where the audition is being held. Unlike many things he would normally protest against, Song-guk finds himself deeply intrigued by this, and when his mother hesitates aloud about turning back, he writhes furiously in her arms, urging her to move forward. A day ago, when the landlady arrived unannounced and stepped into their apartment, she informed Song-guk's parents that her company had recently secured a major corporation's TV commercial and was conducting auditions for an important child role, pointing out that Song-guk, with his adorable looks, might be the perfect candidate. For this very reason, Kim now stands in the audition building, visibly nervous, while Song-guk, on the other hand, carries a triumphant expression, having realized that this is his chance to rise to fame and reclaim the admiration and reverence he once enjoyed in his previous life. It is also the perfect opportunity for him to amass wealth and finally achieve the extravagant lifestyle he dreams of. In his past life, he was constantly surrounded by cameras, with a personal team handling his styling and appearances, and people often remarked that he was a natural-born chaebol who could effortlessly become an actor. Now that he has the real opportunity to step into the spotlight and carve his path to stardom, Song-guk's excitement knows no bounds as he watches the elevator doors open, believing this ride will not only take him to the 11th floor for the audition but also elevate him to unmatched heights. However, when he notices his mother standing frozen and hesitant to step into the elevator, anxiety surges through him, and he kicks his legs in frustration. Two other women, a mother and a nanny carrying a child, step into the elevator first, and Kim follows behind them, standing in the corner with an anxious expression. The child in the other woman's arms suddenly reaches out toward Song-guk, but Song-guk instantly snarls at the kid with a look of pure irritation. Attempting to be polite, Kim compliments the woman's baby, calling them pretty, but the younger woman shoots her an unfriendly look, pointing a finger at Kim and accusing her of trying to size up the competition, causing Kim to hastily wave her hands in denial. With a sly grin and eyes brimming with malice, the woman boldly declares that no matter how hard Song-guk tries, her child will undoubtedly win the audition, leaving him in the dust. Hearing such a provocative remark ignites a furious fire inside Song-guk, and for a brief moment he feels an overwhelming urge to retaliate, causing the woman to instinctively shrink back when she catches the sharp glare in his eyes. Song-guk takes a closer look at the woman, noticing her lavish jewelry and designer clothing, along with the way she treats the nanny like a mere servant, and immediately recognizes her as the stereotypical rich family madam. After a few tense seconds, the elevator arrives at the 11th floor, and as the doors slide open, the two women stride out confidently, while Song-guk glares at them from behind, his focus particularly locked onto the younger woman as he silently vows to crush her arrogance in the audition. The audition is taking place in a grand hall filled with bright lights and multiple cameras, where children are taking turns onto the stage for their screen tests. As Kim carries Song-guk into the hall, he quickly assesses the situation and realizes that this is merely a basic camera test to evaluate how well the children appear on screen and whether they can follow simple acting cues. However, with the intense lighting and unfamiliar setting, many of the babies struggle to handle the pressure and ultimately end up throwing tantrums. After a few more auditions pass, Lee Jae-hee, the child from the elevator, is called up, and the young lady along with her nanny steps forward for his audition. However, the moment Lee is placed under the camera's gaze, he bursts into tears, prompting the audition director to express his growing frustration, while the young woman desperately insists that her child will stop crying and give his audition. A man in a blue shirt, sitting nearby and observing the auditions, loses his patience with the disruptions and instructs the assistant director to escort the young woman and her child outside to allow them to settle down, leaving the woman seething in silent rage as she bites her lip. Soon after, Kim's name is called, and she gently sets Song-guk down on the stage as the audition director signals for the test to begin. Watching her son about to prove himself, Kim feels an overwhelming sense of pride like any mother would, when suddenly, the young woman from before shoves past her, claiming she wants a clear view of Song-guk's failure. At the sight of the woman's smug expression, Song-guk smirks, eager to see the look on her face when he triumphs and proves her wrong. With perfect timing, he tilts his head, closes his eyes, and flashes an irresistibly charming, wide smile, captivating the audience with his sheer adorableness, leaving the man in the blue shirt completely spellbound. The man in the blue shirt swiftly grabs his camera, unable to look away, as he begins filming Song-guk, who effortlessly plays the role of a charming, chubby, and irresistibly cute child, his bright eyes adding to his appeal. By the time Song-guk finishes his performance, the man in the blue shirt is left utterly astounded, declaring him a genius child, while the young woman watches in disbelief, her face twisting in frustration as jealousy consumes her. Kim stands stands there speechless, unable to believe that her son has managed to impress everyone and is even being called a genius. The man in the blue shirt steps forward, introducing himself as Kwak Junha, the CF director, and as he shakes Kim's hand, he tells her that she has an incredibly talented son and asks if they can proceed with the contract right away. Still in shock over everything happening so fast, Kim hesitates before asking if Songguk is truly that talented, and Junha, with a warm smile, assures her that Songguk is overflowing with talent. He further explains that Songguk isn't just a natural in front of the camera, but he reacts to every direction given to him as if he understands every single word and sentence perfectly. Junha's face lights up with excitement, as if he has just hit the jackpot of his life, and he exclaims that he looks forward to working with Songguk on many projects in the future. Unable to bear hearing so much praise, the young woman from before suddenly knocks over a light stand, sending it crashing to the floor, and she shouts furiously, claiming it's unfair to her child and the other children that the real audition hasn't even taken place and Junha has already chosen his star. In order to silence her, it is decided that the final audition will take place between Songguk and her child, Lee, and only one of them will be selected. While the official procedure is taking place inside, Kim and the two women wait outside, and Kim can feel the young woman radiating an intense aura of hatred and jealousy. Nevertheless, she refuses to let anything upset her or make her anxious, because just the fact that Songguk has made it to the final round of the audition and has a chance to win fills her with happiness, and knowing she is proud of him makes Songguk even more determined to succeed for her sake. After a few more minutes of waiting, the old nanny notices Kim looking uneasy and whispers to her, asking if she is alright, to which Kim responds that she needs to use the bathroom. The nanny agrees to look after Songguk and gently lifts him into her arms, while Kim heads toward the restroom to relieve herself. Now that Songguk is right in front of her, the nanny smiles at him and says he really is charming, and hearing this, the young woman becomes furious that the old lady is being kind to the enemy of her child, so she suddenly snaps at the nanny and scolds her, making her flinch in embarrassment. Songguk clenches his fists as frustration surges through him, and for a brief moment, his hands ache with the urge to retaliate, wishing he could teach the woman a lesson for her behavior. Just then, the assistant director of the audition walks into the hall, looking tense as he searches for Kim, and Songguk instantly senses that something is wrong. The young woman begins lashing out at the assistant director, angrily revealing that her child, Lee, was already chosen to win and demanding to know why he now has to compete with Songguk. Even the assistant director nods and confirms that there was indeed an arrangement, making Songguk realize that this is nothing but a case of corruption and that the CF model had been chosen long before the audition even started. As for the so-called audition, it was merely a staged event to give Lee a grand debut, and every other child, including Songguk, was just there to play the role of extras. The assistant director nervously pleads with the young woman to lower her voice, warning her that director Junha might overhear them, but she scoffs and declares that the winner of the audition was already decided by the higher-ups, and that Junha is powerless to change it. However, the assistant director shakes his head and tells her she is mistaken, explaining that in this particular audition, Junha has the final say, and even the higher-ups cannot override his decision, before asking if she has properly prepared her son for the final round. The woman responds with confidence, claiming that she hired a private tutor to train her son, and upon hearing this, the assistant director smirks and confidently states that Songguk stands no chance of winning. She then leans closer to Lee, completely ignoring Songguk, and begins whispering lines to her son, urging him to repeat them so he can be fully prepared for the audition. Half an hour later, the stage is set, and Songguk and Lee are both placed on it, where they are handed lines that they must pronounce and act out accordingly in order to win. Kim looks extremely anxious, her hands clasped tightly together as she closes her eyes and silently prays for Songguk's success. Junha finally gives the signal, and with that, the filming of the final audition begins. The assistant director gestures toward the children, signaling them to follow her directions, and Songguk quickly realizes that their ability to respond to filming cues will play a major role in their score, so he steps forward, walking confidently toward the camera and the director. On the other hand, Lee suddenly starts crawling toward his mother, who frantically shouts at him to go the other way. Seeing this, Junha makes a quick decision to put Lee aside for now and focus on testing Songguk first, instructing the assistant director to proceed, and though reluctant, she steps forward, leans down close to Songguk, and instructs him to say Appa. Without even the slightest difficulty, Songguk clearly and confidently speaks the word aloud, completely stunning the assistant director, who had assumed that he would fail. Having already expected such excellence from Songguk, Junha's lips curl into a wide smile, and he declares that Songguk truly is a genius. Refusing to accept defeat, the young woman hurriedly lifts her child and urges him to speak, while Junha sighs, feeling sorry for Lee as he watches how recklessly his mother is handling him. Instead of saying Appa, Lee bursts into tears and begins wailing loudly, making his mother go pale with embarrassment, and she stammers that she had made him practice endlessly, which puzzles Junha since none of the candidates' mothers were given prior knowledge of the audition lines. Seeing the look of suspicion in Junha's eyes, the assistant director, who is deeply entangled in the corruption, suddenly raises her voice and hurriedly declares that the audition is officially over. Songguk, beaming with excitement, confidently looks forward to the results, knowing deep in his heart that he will surely be announced as the winner. But he is wrong, and both he and Kim are left utterly shocked when the results are revealed, and Lee is declared the next generation child star and the winner of the audition. Completely taken aback by this unexpected outcome, Kim protests against the assistant director, demanding to know how the results could be rigged when Songguk had clearly outperformed Lee in the audition. Just then, Lee's mother arrives with an arrogant smirk on her face, taunting Kim and reminding her of her place, saying that simply being cute does not make a child an actor. Hearing her insult Songguk, Kim furiously shouts back, but the woman scoffs and cruelly remarks that for someone of lower status, second place is not bad, before turning her back on Kim and walking away with another smirk. Kim's face burns red with anger, and her whole body trembles that this woman dared to belittle her and her son, but she falls silent when Songguk tugs on her shirt, signaling her to stay quiet because he actually has a plan and everything is unfolding exactly as he wants. Just as he predicted, the director, Junha, emerges from his office, calling out to Kim and urging her to wait and speak with him. As for Songguk's plan, the moment he heard Lee's mother mention that Lee was pre-selected due to internal arrangements, he instantly recognized the corruption, having witnessed similar schemes in his past life, and from experience, he knew there was no point in fighting a battle he could not win. Gasping for breath after sprinting through the corridor, Junha expresses his shock, just as much as Kim's, and asks if she can spare a moment to talk. He bows slightly and apologizes for the disrespectful words of Lee's mother, then gently pats Songguk's head, stating that he truly deserved to win the audition. With this, Junha officially declares that Songguk is more than qualified and informs them that he can attend the commercial shoot in a week's time. This is exactly what Songguk planned from the start: captivate the director, build connections, consistently secure child actor jobs, rise as a child star, and ultimately achieve wealth and fame, making his parents proud, and just the thought of it makes him lost in a dream, his tongue nearly lolling out as he envisions money piling up before him. Meanwhile, Kim remains puzzled and questions why she should bring Songguk to the commercial shoot when he was not selected, but Junha explains that they always prepare one or two backup models for baby commercials, adding bluntly that he lacks confidence in Lee's performance. Grabbing Kim's hand in desperation, Junha pleads with her to help him out by allowing Songguk to participate, and with a smile, Kim agrees but firmly states that the schedule must not be too demanding on Songguk. This was the final step in Songguk's plan, and now that his mother has given her approval, he can already see himself basking in fortune and recognition. Junha notices the look on Songguk's face and laughs, remarking that the boy seems to truly understand everything just from the way he is reacting to their conversation. With the deal sealed, Junha hands Kim his business card and instructs her to contact him when necessary. A week passes, and the day of the commercial shoot arrives, with the location bustling with activity as Kim arrives with Songguk, just as Junha had arranged. The assistant director rushes over, waving her hand and calling out for Kim, but the moment Songguk sees her, he casts a dark stare, already aware of her corruption. The assistant director informs Kim that the director told her Songguk is the backup model and asks her to follow her to the waiting room. There, Songguk spots the Samjin third-generation washing machine, a brand new model, and in his previous life, this particular machine became a massive success due to its innovative spin cycle system. As Kim and Songguk arrive, Lee's mother instantly looks enraged and demands to know why they are here, even going so far as to call them rejects. With a fiery tone, Kim immediately shouts back, declaring that they were personally invited by the director as backup models. Lee's mother narrows her eyes and demands to know what a backup model is, prompting the assistant director to explain that it is a substitute in case Lee is unable to perform. Hearing this, Lee's mother confidently shrugs and insists that Lee does not need a backup, claiming he is in top condition, but she is lying, as Songguk can clearly see that Lee looks exhausted and barely able to keep his eyes open. Lee's mother starts to speak further, but before she can continue, the commercial's lead actress, Lim Seonmi, arrives looking absolutely radiant and asks why there is so much noise in the room. She then notices Songguk and Lee and asks if the two children will be filming with her today, while both Kim and the nanny holding the kids stare in awe at her stunning beauty. Moving closer to Lee, Seonmi offers a warm smile and gently tries to speak to him, but Lee remains completely unresponsive, causing Seonmi's smile to fade as she turns away away in disappointment, remarking that he does not seem interested in her at all. However, Song-guk reacts the complete opposite way, making joyful noises and expressing excitement, prompting Seonmi to walk over and affectionately pat his head, to which he eagerly grabs her arm with clear admiration. Seonmi chuckles, commenting that she has never seen such a friendly child before, as she continues to playfully fumble with Song-guk's hand. Witnessing the lead actress completely ignoring her son while being affectionate with Song-guk, Lee's mother's face twists with anger, and she suddenly grabs Seonmi's hand, yanking it away while shouting at her and demanding to know what she thinks she is doing. Just as she is about to scold Seonmi further, a man wearing glasses firmly places a hand on her shoulder, stopping her, and calmly asks why she is shouting. Seonmi immediately recognizes the man as the vice chairman, and with a radiant smile, she steps closer to him and playfully asks what brings him here, to which the vice chairman replies that he is overseeing the commercial shoot for his new product. Song-guk instantly freezes in shock, his eyes widening twofold as he locks his gaze onto the man, recognizing him as John Jae-hyun, the vice chairman of Samjin, and in his past life, his very own father. Vice Chairman John Jae-hyun of Samjin, while not as much of a giant as his father and Song-guk's grandfather, was still a capable leader who spearheaded the company's restructuring and guided it through crises, earning a reputation as a forward-thinking executive due to his bold investments in specialized fields. However, as a father, he was far worse, never once fulfilling his role or giving Song-guk even the slightest attention in his past life. And even now, just looking at him makes Song-guk feel sick to his stomach with disgust. As far back as Song-guk can remember, his father always had numerous mistresses, but when he was 10, his father introduced him to one in particular, Lim Seonmi, an actress who was his 9th mistress. Now back in the present, Seonmi points at Song-guk with an amused smile, saying she likes him and wants to film with him, and as she approaches, she greets him warmly, though Song-guk does not return the gesture, nor does Kim, who seems just as bewildered that the chairman of such a prestigious company is speaking to her son. Just then, an assistant arrives to summon Jae-hyun, informing him that it is time, and with a hearty laugh, Jae-hyun remarks that he completely lost track of time before turning to Lee's mother and telling her he is counting on her to make things work. Looking visibly tense, Lee's mother bows deeply before Jae-hyun, her voice trembling as she stammers out a promise to work hard, and Song-guk watches with a smirk, amused by how she acts so submissive before him while carrying herself with such arrogance in front of others. Jae-hyun remains as he always was, a man of contradictions, a carefree playboy when it suits him, yet a charismatic corporate leader when it truly matters, and most of all, the father Song-guk never wished to acknowledge. Ruffling Song-guk's hair as if nothing is wrong, Jae-hyun says he is counting on him as well before casually turning his back and walking away without a second glance. After coming face to face with his father from his past life, Song-guk feels a strange surge of motivation, his resolve hardening as he vows to protect his true family and one day build an empire even greater than his father's so that when they meet again, it will be as equals. The assistant director raises his voice, calling for the crew to prepare for the shoot, instructing Kim and the nanny to stand beside the 2 children who will be acting in the product advertisement. Song-guk pushes thoughts of his father aside, deciding to leave the past where it belongs and focus entirely on Lee and the acting, as that is what truly matters right now. The commercial's concept is simple yet visually striking, beginning in a picturesque forest cabin where a mother and her baby do laundry, one washing a sweat-stained white shirt while the baby happily rubs its cheek against the freshly cleaned fabric, calling out "Daddy" as the dazzlingly white shirt glows under the light. The advertisement ends on a heartwarming note, showcasing the refreshed mother and child, with the gleaming spin cycle taking center stage, embodying the perfect household product. In Song-guk's past life, this very commercial became an overwhelming success, winning the year's top advertising award for its brilliant concept, and the child actor who starred in it soared to fame, earning the title of Child Actor of the Year. As the cameras start rolling, Lee instantly begins crying and wailing uncontrollably, disrupting the scene, much to Seonmi's growing frustration as the repeated takes stretch on due to his relentless sobbing. Even Kim seems a little taken aback, surprised that Lee is crying so much and so persistently, as it is quite unusual for any child to behave this way. The real reason behind Lee's tears, however, is a little trick Song-guk taught him. He whispered that if Lee simply cried and refused to cooperate, he would be sent home early, away from the suffocating pressure his mother constantly put on him. Though even Song-guk is unsure how, Lee managed to grasp his meaning perfectly and is now executing his crying act with absolute determination, refusing to let up. After what feels like an eternity of endless crying, the director, Junha, finally reaches his limit, firmly declaring that they will proceed with the backup actor instead. However, Lee's mother refuses to accept it, insisting that her son be given another chance, but Junha firmly reminds her that they they have already wasted an hour and can no longer afford any more delays. Still unwilling to back down, Lee's mother pulls out her phone and, in front of the entire crew, loudly dials her father / the chairman of one of the most powerful companies, before threatening to have everyone fired on the spot. Without warning, Seonmi suddenly raises her hand and delivers a sharp, resounding slap across Lee's mother's face, the sound ringing out like a whip crack, leaving Kim, Song-guk, and the director staring in wide-eyed shock. Just like them, Lee's mother is utterly stunned, unable to comprehend that someone like Seonmi would dare to strike her, and when she demands to know if Seonmi has lost her mind, Seonmi forces a smile and states in a cold, measured tone that she cannot stand people who disrupt the set. Despite Junha's frantic gestures urging her to stop, Seonmi remains unfazed, telling Lee's mother that if she is so full of herself, she should take her son and leave, before turning to Junha and demanding that they restart the shoot, declaring that this time, Song-guk will be the child actor instead. Even after being slapped and humiliated, Lee's mom, still acting arrogantly, refuses to give up and shouts in anger, questioning how her child could be pushed aside for a poor kid. Kim holds Song-guk close to her chest, covering his ears with her hand, determined to shield him from the venomous words pouring out of Lee's mother's mouth. The camera, that red light, was one of the things that haunted Song-guk in his past life when he used to get surrounded by hundreds of journalists on a daily basis, and when he was chosen as the CEO, it was even more intense, and he learned how to perform before the camera. In the present, as the cameras roll and the shoot begins, Seonmi carries Song-guk in her arms, delivering her lines with practiced grace, while Song-guk, clutching onto her freshly washed shirt, utters the word daddy in a voice so endearing that it leaves the director, Junha, and the assistant director utterly mesmerized. A warm smile spreads across Junha's face as he instructs the cameraman to keep the focus steady and capture every angle of Song-guk, who, completely immersed in the scene, playfully fumbles with the shirt, his actions resembling a kitten toying with its favorite possession. Witnessing such an outstanding performance, Junha is beyond thrilled, his admiration for Song-guk growing with every second, thoroughly impressed by the boy's natural talent. Even Seonmi is taken aback, unable to believe just how talented Song-guk truly is, and while she is momentarily lost in thought, the assistant director shows her a line, which she swiftly delivers, flawlessly concluding the scene with a beaming smile as she urges viewers to choose the Samjin spin cycle for a happy family. Junha finds not a single flaw in the take, his voice ringing with satisfaction as he declares the shot perfect, instructing the crew to cut and wrap up the shoot without any need for retakes. After reviewing the final product, the decision is made: Song-guk will now be the lead child actor, a ruling that instantly enrages Lee's mother, who refuses to accept it and attempts to argue, only for Junha to cut her off, bluntly questioning what she expects when her son can't even perform properly, let alone act. Kim and Song-guk, exhausted and losing patience, endure as Lee's mother stubbornly refuses to accept that her son isn't suited for acting. With a reassuring nudge, Seonmi leans toward Kim and tells her not to worry, promising that no matter how much Lee's mother protests or cries, Song-guk is now the lead child actor, and nothing will change that. She then turns her attention to Song-guk, and with a gentle smile, she praises him, declaring that he is absolutely incredible. With an expression twisted by resentment, Lee's mother glares at them, her voice laced with bitterness as she reveals that she poured a fortune into this commercial just to secure her son a spot, and now, infuriated, she sneers at the assistant director, reminding him that she took a cut of that money as well. Junha's expression darkens as he shakes his head in disappointment, unable to believe that his assistant actually accepted a bribe, and he firmly states that they will be having a serious discussion about it later. Gritting her teeth in fury, Lee's mother refuses to back down, her voice trembling with frustration as she vows she will not remain silent and, before storming off, swears to take legal action against everyone involved. As she finally disappears from sight, Junha turns to Kim, his expression apologetic, and asks if she is alright after everything that just happened. With a composed smile, Kim reassures him, expressing gratitude and relief that Junha is a hard-working, honest man who values integrity. Junha nervously ruffles his hair, thanking her for the compliment, then acknowledges that without Song-guk, they'd be in serious trouble, confirming the company will ensure Song-guk is properly compensated. The mere mention of money instantly brightens Song-guk's mood, his eyes sparkling with excitement as Kim asks if they can finally head home, to which Seonmi kindly offers them a ride in her van. As the van speeds down the highway, Song-guk, completely drained from a long day, drifts off to sleep, while Kim and Seonmi remain engaged in conversation. Kim expresses her gratitude for the ride, but Seonmi quickly insists that she should be the one giving thanks, emphasizing that Song-guk's brilliant performance saved the day and allowed them to finish early, granting everyone a well-earned rest. She then points out that she noticed how effortlessly Song-guk Song-guk responded to the red light of the camera, flawlessly synchronizing his actions with her timing and even adjusting himself to fit her best angles without any direction. With a look of pure admiration, as if she has stumbled upon a rare gem, Seonmi marvels at Song-guk's incredible intuition, declaring that he understood the flow of the shoot instinctively and delivered a performance that surpassed all expectations. Kim, still trying to process everything, asks in disbelief if Song-guk is truly that exceptional, struggling to comprehend how he could have matured so quickly. Seonmi confirms it with certainty, then, after a moment of thought, reveals that she has a proposal regarding Song-guk, presenting Kim with an offer so astonishing that it leaves her completely stunned. However, Song-guk's eyes snap open and a smile creeps onto his lips, for he realizes that this offer will be the very thing that will propel him straight into the spotlight. The next morning, the landlady arrives at Song-guk's apartment and confidently places a thick stack of cash, totaling 4 million won, onto the table as part of his payment, leaving both his parents utterly shocked and momentarily speechless. Contrary to their astonishment, Song-guk is filled with immense satisfaction, realizing that child acting was undeniably the right choice. Overwhelmed with excitement, he envisions investing this money into stocks or gold, fully believing that he can double or even triple it within a short period. After a moment, Jiseong finally comprehends that the money is real and not part of a dream, causing his eyes to widen as he exclaims with delight that they are now rich. However, Kim does not share the same excitement and remains silent, seemingly deep in thought, before she turns to the landlady and pulls out a card that Seonmi had given her the previous night. The landlady carefully takes the card and examines it, only to be instantly taken aback upon realizing that it belongs to an agency called Sinsung Entertainment. With a knowing look, Kim points out that Seonmi must have taken a genuine liking to Song-guk and reveals that she had extended an offer to bring him into Sinsung Entertainment as an exclusive child actor. Jiseon, clearly surprised, questions whether this means Seonmi intends to turn their little boy into a full-fledged celebrity. Understanding their hesitation, the landlady reassures Kim and Jiseon that she will personally investigate Sinsung Entertainment and find out more about the CEO, ensuring he is someone they can truly rely on. Kim, deeply touched by her kindness, expresses her heartfelt gratitude, to which the landlady simply smiles and assures her that it's no trouble, promising to do her very best to assist them. With those words, she steps out of the apartment, but just as Kim suddenly rushes after her, the landlady pauses and turns around in curiosity. Kim hesitates for a moment before asking why the landlady is going to such great lengths to help her family, pointing out that she was the first to recognize Song-guk's talent, got him into the audience, and continues to support them. The landlady, after a thought, admits that she simply wishes to support Kim and her family, revealing that she, too, had grown up facing financial struggles. She further adds that when Kim and her husband moved in, she was deeply inspired by their love and dedication, and since then, she has always wanted to cheer them on and help in any way she can. Hearing these heartfelt words, Kim is visibly moved and asks if she can call the landlady Uni, meaning older sister, before excitedly offering to cook for her whenever she has the chance. With a small smile, the landlady gladly agrees, causing Kim to brighten up with joy as she eagerly expresses how much she is looking forward to it. 2 weeks later, on a particular evening, Jiseong wraps up work at the pork shop earlier than usual, his face brimming with excitement as he informs his boss, Park Won, that he is done for the day. The reason for closing early is that he and his boss have made plans to watch Song-guk's commercial, which is set to air at any moment now. Park Won has taken quite a liking to Song-guk and never misses an opportunity to cuddle him, though Song-guk, despite his dislike for the boss, tolerates him only for his father's sake. A minute later, the landlady arrives at the shop, and Kim welcomes her warmly, mentioning that the commercial is about to start and they can all watch it together. Picking up the remote, Jiseon calls out to everyone, urging them to take their seats as the commercial begins, playing on the television screen. The scene opens with Seonmi holding Song-guk in her arms, both wearing puzzled expressions as if caught in a moment of curiosity. Upon seeing Song-guk's adorable face on the TV, Kim and the landlady are unable to contain their excitement, their expressions lighting up with joy. The commercial continues, and Song-guk, softly biting on a freshly cleaned shirt washed with the Samjin spin cycle, murmurs the word "dadded" with glistening eyes and an endearing tone. That single word resonates deeply, sending a wave of emotions through Kim and everyone else watching, as though they are witnessing something truly angelic in that very moment. Overcome with enthusiasm, Park Won immediately starts clapping, his voice filled with admiration as he exclaims how amazing the commercial is. The landlady, just as impressed, nods in agreement and confidently states that the commercial was truly exceptional and might even win an award in the future. Meanwhile, Jiseong lifts Song-guk, pressing his cheek against his son's, his heart swelling with pride as he expresses how incredibly proud he is of him. Just then, the shop's phone suddenly starts ringing and Park Won, still brimming with excitement, picks it up, only to freeze completely, his eyes widening in shock as all color drains from his face. The caller is Junha, who calmly states that he has heard Songguk's family is gathered at the shop and that he is calling because he needs to have an urgent word with them. Later that day, Songguk's parents take him to the headquarters, where they meet Junha as requested, and he shakes Jiseong's hand with a grateful smile, thanking them for coming. Leaning down to Songguk, he gently asks how he is doing, and in response, Songguk points at Junha and mutters the word director, pretending to recognize him. Junha raises his brows in surprise, noting that Songguk is speaking much more than he did just a few weeks ago, to which Kim replies that Songguk has started talking and now babbles all day long. Letting out a hearty laugh, Junha jokingly says that if Songguk becomes fluent, they might start giving him longer lines, which is exactly what Songguk wants since expressing himself will accelerate his rise to fame. Gesturing for the parents to take a seat, Junha sits down as well and reveals that he called them here to discuss a new program featuring Songguk as the main star, placing a script on the table and introducing the show as Just Baby, a childcare variety show where a famous 5-member idol group will live with Songguk. Just then, the door swings open and a blonde-haired man wearing a mask walks in, introducing himself as Taeyoung, the leader of the idol group, and expressing his excitement to work with Songguk. He then removes his mask, revealing a strikingly handsome face, and the moment Kim lays eyes on him, she becomes visibly flustered and instantly starts fangirling Taeyoung with a curious smile and asks if she recognizes him, to which Kim quickly claims that she has seen the 5-member idol group on TV a few times before and recognized Taeyoung from there. Meanwhile, Jiseong watches his wife's reaction with a sinking feeling in his chest, growing jealous and somewhat insecure, which Songguk immediately picks up on. Junha then mentions that once filming begins, the rest of the members will also join, prompting Kim's eyes to light up as she excitedly says she would love to meet all of them. However, she hesitates for a moment and asks if it would be too difficult for Songguk to work alongside such famous top stars, given that he is only a year old. Junha reassures her by saying that this opportunity will be incredibly beneficial for Songguk, adding that he is already proving to be a key factor in the show's success with his clear expressions and natural camera presence. At that moment, Songguk finally remembers this show from his past life, recalling how the unique dynamic between the baby and the idol group instantly captivated audiences of all ages, turning the program into a national sensation in no time. Realizing that this is the perfect stepping stone toward his goal, Songguk eagerly thumps his hands on the table, which Jiseong misinterprets as excitement for the show. However, Jiseong furrows his brows and expresses his concern, worrying that if Songguk keeps appearing on television, he might grow up differently from other children, and he says he wants his son to have a normal childhood rather than a celebrity's life. Taeyoung says he understands and shares that he was once a child actor himself, explaining that being on TV inevitably means growing up under the public's watchful eyes, but he has no regrets since that early chance allowed him to showcase his talents and achieve success. Looking Jiseong in the eye, Taeyoung urges him to trust his son and allow him to prove his abilities to the world, giving him the chance to shine in his own way. Encouraged by Taeyoung's words, Jiseong finally agrees, shaking Junha's hand to seal the deal before signing multiple contracts to make everything official. After all preparations are complete, a few weeks later, the first day of filming arrives, and all 5 members of the idol group are present at the set, ready to begin. The group is led by Taeyoung and consists of Lucas, Jaehyun, Byeomseon, and finally, the last member, Michael. The moment Kim sees all 5 idols standing before her, she gasps in excitement, her eyes sparkling as she enthusiastically greets each one of them, much to Jiseong's growing jealousy. Clapping his hands to gather everyone's attention, director Junha announces that they will be filming at the idol group's dorm and encourages everyone to stay focused and give their best effort. Just then, Jaehyun arrives at the set, and all the idol members immediately bow and greet him with deep respect. Meanwhile, Michael approaches Songguk and attempts to touch him, casually commenting that he is not exactly cute, but before he can react, Songguk slaps his hand away, making Michael flinch and withdraw, rubbing his reddened hand in surprise. Still staring at Michael with disapproval, Songguk inwardly scoffs, recognizing this Korean-American troublemaker from his past life and deciding right then that he will take control of this program himself. The other idols quickly gather around Songguk, showering him with compliments on how adorable he is, but Michael remains behind, his lips curving into a sinister grin as he silently vows to turn this experience into a nightmare for Songguk. Director Director Junha gathers everyone inside the dorm, explaining that all the filming will take place here and they will first conduct a 3-day pre-filming session before releasing 3 pilot episodes to gauge the audience's reaction and decide the next steps. He also clarifies that filming will occur during the daytime, while at night the staff will leave and the cameras will switch to observation mode, allowing Songguk's parents to stay at a nearby hotel. Thumping his chest with confidence, Junha reassures Songguk's parents, telling them not to worry about leaving their son behind and urging them to trust both him. The idols back him up, assuring the parents that they will treat Songguk like their own younger brother and ensure that he never feels lonely or left out. An hour later, as the shoot is about to begin, the assistant director announces that the first scene will start with a narration, which introduces the setting as a semi-basement in Seoul where 5 young men, known as Just, dream of becoming top idols, when suddenly, a baby enters their lives. As soon as the narration ends, complete silence follows, with Songguk staring up at the idols while they stare down at him in return. Observing this, the assistant director wonders if there are no scripted lines, but director Junha reminds him that this is a reality show with no scripts, though he notes that Songguk doesn't seem to know what to do next. In truth, it's not just Songguk. None of the idols have a clue about what to do next since they haven't been given any proper instructions or guidance. Songguk was merely testing to see if these rookie idols would take the initiative, but since they hesitate, he makes the first move by bursting into tears. Chaos erupts as the idols scramble, unsure of how to handle the situation, until Taeyang finally picks Songguk up and gently rocks him in his arms, trying to soothe him. Once Songguk stops crying, Taeyang hands him over to Jaehyun, and in response, Songguk instantly goes completely silent, pretending to be asleep. Feeling triumphant, Jaehyun boasts that babies naturally love handsome faces, clearly referring to himself, but Taeyang immediately starts arguing, insisting that Songguk finds him more handsome. Watching them closely, Songguk quickly realizes that each of these 5 guys has a distinct personality, with Taeyang as the smart and responsible leader, almost like a father figure, while Jaehyun is the gentle, flower boy narcissist with a motherly touch. Likewise, Lucas stands out as the easygoing athlete, playing the role of the reliable big brother, while Byamsian is the quiet yet observant one, always looking out for others, making them the perfect mix for a household dynamic. However, when it comes to Michael, Songguk sees him as clueless and somewhat arrogant, deciding in his mind to cast him as the villain, but for the sake of the group's success, he settles on making him the rival instead, and he dramatically points at him. Noticing Songguk's odd behavior, Jaehyun suggests to Taeyang that Songguk might need a diaper change, but Taeyang quickly admits that he has never even touched a diaper before. Stepping forward with confidence, Michael declares that he will handle it, placing Songguk on the ground and removing his pants without hesitation. Songguk locks eyes with Michael, and without warning, he lets out a sudden stream, sending warm liquid directly onto Michael's face. Michael abruptly jumps to his feet, his expression twisting in pure frustration, while Songguk bursts into laughter, rolling on the floor in delight. Sensing that Michael is about to lose his temper, Taeyang quickly intervenes, grabbing him from behind to hold him back before he can lunge at Songguk. The entire scene unfolds like pure comedy, causing both the director and the assistant director to erupt in laughter as they keep the cameras rolling. Catching a glimpse of the crew laughing, Songguk feels satisfied, knowing that the first part of his plan has been a complete success. A few hours later, director Junha announces that they will take a 2-hour break before moving on to the evening shoot. Overwhelmed with relief, the 5 idols collapse onto the floor and the sofas, looking completely drained from giving their all to make the show entertaining. Kim walks over to Songguk, telling him that he did a great job today before peeling a banana and handing it to him, which Songguk happily munches on. Just then, Taeyang approaches Jiseong from behind, introducing himself, and the two quickly become acquainted, chatting effortlessly as if they've known each other for years. Taeyang expresses his amazement at how naturally Songguk acts, almost as if he already understands their roles and plays along accordingly, despite still being a baby, confidently declaring that Songguk will rise to great heights and shine brilliantly. Meanwhile, Michael steps out of the shower, vigorously drying his hair and face, his expression still carrying deep irritation as he recalls what Songguk did to him earlier. As he walks past the assistant director, he notices the man holding a bowl and asks what it contains, to which the assistant director explains that it is Songguk's baby food for the evening meal. Without hesitation, Michael suddenly snatches the bowl from the assistant director's hands, and with a mischievous, triumphant grin, he declares that he will personally prepare the food and feed Songguk himself as he subtly pulls out a small packet of chili sauce from his pocket. Tearing off a small part of the sauce packet with his teeth, Michael creates a small opening and carefully pours the sauce into Songguk's bowl, eager to witness the outcome of his prank. Meanwhile, the assistant director finishes setting up observation cameras in the corners of the house, making sure everything is in place for the evening shoot. The 5 idols and Songguk gather in the main hall, looking visibly bored and drained, struggling to figure out what to do or how to act naturally with cameras constantly watching them. Lucas suggests they should eat dinner first, but since none of them know how to cook, the idea is quickly dismissed. Taeyong proposes that at the very least, they should feed Songguk his baby food even if they themselves remain hungry, and immediately, Michael takes out the bowl of food from the refrigerator, volunteering to help feed him. Shocked by Michael's sudden willingness, Taeyong questions why he is acting differently when he has been a nuisance the entire day. Forcing a smile, Michael claims that he simply feels like taking care of Songguk and moves toward him with the bowl in hand. Songguk, sensing something suspicious about Michael's sudden kindness, quickly grabs the spoon from the bowl and unexpectedly turns the tables, attempting to feed Michael instead. Michael is momentarily stunned by Songguk's action, while Taeyong exclaims in delight, assuming that Songguk is trying to share his food. However, knowing the food is loaded with chili sauce, Michael immediately refuses to eat, prompting Taeyong to step in and say that he will eat it instead, sitting on the floor and opening his mouth wide to accept the spoonful offered by Songguk. The moment the food touches his tongue, an overwhelming heat surges through his mouth, his expression contorts, and his face turns pale as the spiciness takes over. He immediately starts coughing and retching on the spot, leaving Jaehyun startled as he anxiously asks what just happened. In that instant, Songguk realizes that Michael had tampered with his food and shoots him a piercing glare, his expression unreadable. Wiping the drool from his lips, Taeyong grimaces and exclaims that the food is drenched in chili sauce, before turning sharply to Michael and demanding if he was responsible for this. Knowing he has been caught, Michael loudly admits that he mixed in some hot sauce, brushing it off as a harmless joke, but his voice rises in frustration as he begins arguing with Taeyong. Without warning, Jaehyun lunges forward, grabbing Michael by the collar of his shirt and demanding if he has lost his mind for even considering feeding something so spicy to a 1-year-old, regardless of whether it was a joke or not. Kneeling before Songguk, Taeyong speaks in a gentle voice, apologizing and asking if he felt scared or startled by what just happened. Michael, irritated by Taeyong's approach, shouts in frustration, questioning why he is speaking to Songguk as if he actually understands, but Taeyong immediately snaps back, firmly stating that Songguk is smart enough to comprehend everything. Songguk watches the 5 idols arguing back and forth, all of them trying to stand up for him, and despite their chaotic energy, he finds them amusing and oddly likable, deciding that from now on, he will guide them properly. 2 weeks later, the landlady visits Songguk's parents to deliver surprising news. The ratings for last Friday's episode of Just Baby had soared to 20%, leaving Songguk and his parents utterly astonished. Jiseon gasps in disbelief, exclaiming that such a jump in ratings is incredible and wondering if a 20% viewership increase in just 1 week is considered extraordinary. With a pleased smile, the landlady confirms that it is beyond exceptional, even pointing out that MVC's flagship variety shows only manage around 15%, before adding that the director has officially secured a regular slot for the program. Turning to Songguk's parents, she offers her congratulations, giving a special nod to Songguk, who beams with pride, his expression filled with satisfaction. However, as he clenches his fists, he reminds himself not to be complacent, knowing that his true ambitions lie beyond this. His eyes are set on money, success, and ultimately rising to the very top like a king. Kim suddenly brings up something that has been on her mind, mentioning to the landlady that a few days ago, someone from Sinsung Entertainment visited their home to congratulate them on the show's success. The visitors had even handed Jiseon a basket of fruit and conveyed that CEO Shin Seonjung was interested in meeting both Kim and Jiseon, inviting them to visit the agency whenever they had time. Uncertain about how to respond, Kim confesses that she and her husband have been debating whether they should go to the agency right away or take their time to consider it. The landlady reveals that she recently did some digging into Sinsung Entertainment and discovered that while they hold a significant influence in the entertainment industry, there are numerous negative rumors surrounding the company and its CEO, including disturbing whispers of connections to organized crime. Hearing this, both Kim and Jiseon freeze in shock, the color draining from their faces wishes, but the landlady calmly advises that despite the rumors, they should at least visit the agency once and hear what they have to say. Meanwhile, Song-guk feels a strange sense of familiarity upon hearing the name Samsung Entertainment, and as he racks his brain, a sudden realization strikes him, causing him to shake his hands frantically, trying to stop his mother from going anywhere near that company's CEO. However, his efforts are in vain, as the very next day, Kim and the landlady proceed to the Samsung Entertainment headquarters, stepping into the office where they come face to face with the CEO. With a warm and welcoming smile, the CEO, Shin Song-jung, greets the ladies and gestures for them to take a seat, encouraging them to make themselves comfortable. Once they are seated, the landlady asks Song-jung the reason for the meeting, and he replies that he has something beneficial to discuss for Song-guk. The landlady, curious, inquires what Song-jung means by something good, and he answers that he's referring to a contract, an exclusive one, to be precise. He goes on to explain that the proposal is for Song-guk to partner with Samsung Entertainment, the leading agency in Korea's entertainment industry, offering him a 10-year exclusive contract. At the mention of such a lengthy commitment, Kim gasps, covering her mouth in shock, while the landlady, maintaining her composure, asks Song-jung why he's proposing such a long contract. Song-jung explains that top actors like Jang Dong-gun and Lim Seon-mi rose to fame under Samsung Entertainment, and if Song-guk joins, he will follow in their footsteps. He hands the landlady the contract to read. As she schemes through the contract, the landlady's eyes widen in disbelief at the outrageous terms, particularly the clause stating a 1-year contract with a 70-30 profit split, with 70% going to the agency. Song-guk feels that this contract is nothing short of slavery, designed to drain him before he even has the chance to grow into a top actor. More than shocked, he finds himself amused, recognizing that Song-jung is exactly as he remembers from his past life, where Song-jung also had strong ties to Samjin. Song-guk's father had met Song-jung through Seon-mi, and Song-jung funneled Samjin's advertisements to Samsung Entertainment, showing his loyalty by sending the agency's biggest stars to Samjin's events. However, things took a turn when Song-jung was eventually imprisoned for threatening and assaulting his own artists, and Samsung Entertainment became embroiled in scandals of unfair contracts and abuse. Returning to the present, Song-jung proudly claims that he's been in the industry for over a decade, but he's never encountered a child actor with talent like Song-guk's, promising to nurture him into the greatest actor if given the chance. Without even pausing to consider the offer, the landlady snaps the file shut and coldly declares that she is not interested, firmly rejecting the contract. Although visibly disappointed, Song-jung forces a smile and asks her what it is about the contract that she doesn't like, to which the landlady responds that it's the 70-30 split that concerns her, pointing out that Song-guk's value will only grow in the future. Song-jung, wearing a smirk, acknowledges her concern but insists that the child actor market is small and Song-guk will never earn as much as adult actors. He further suggests that Song-guk's looks might change as he grows, causing his value to likely decline. At this remark, Kim immediately shields Song-guk's ears with her hands and shouts at Song-jung to watch his tone. Song-guk, now seething with anger, shoots Song-jung a piercing glare, the urge to lunge at him rising as he pictures him as nothing more than an ugly toad. Kim tightly holds Song-guk as he begins squirming in her arms, desperately trying to break free and confront Song-jung to teach him a lesson. Sensing the tension and deciding to end the meeting, the landlady stands up, bows politely to Song-jung, and announces that they are leaving. However, Song-jung, not ready to give up so easily, asks the landlady why she's interfering, considering she is merely an outsider to Song-guk's life. Kim, feeling a surge of anger at this comment, attempts to speak, but the landlady interrupts, asserting her right to speak as Song-guk's manager. She rises to her feet and, with confidence, points out that she has experience in the advertising industry, making it clear that the contract is grossly unfair. Gritting his teeth in frustration, Song-jung snarls at the landlady, warning her that she will regret this, and questioning whether she believes she'll still have a place in the entertainment industry after disrespecting him. Completely unfazed by Song-jung's threat, the landlady calmly replies that she will see what happens, before leading Kim out of the building. Once outside, she asks Kim if she's okay, to which Kim responds that she is fine, though she expresses concern for the landlady since she faced the brunt of Song-jung's hostility. The landlady, however, dismisses the worry, saying that people like Song-jung are all too common in the industry and she's long since grown used to dealing with individuals like him. She suggests they forget about the incident and head home. Just then, Kim asks her if she would consider becoming Song-guk's manager for real, catching the landlady off guard. Song-guk thinks this is a great idea, as the landlady has proven to be trustworthy and knowledgeable about the industry, and the combination of these qualities makes her an ideal fit. However, the landlady hesitates to accept the position immediately, attempting to decline, but Song-guk tugs at her sleeve and gives gives her an innocent look, laughing brightly, clearly approving of her. Kim points out that Song-guk genuinely likes the landlady and pleads with her to consider the offer, asking her to help protect Song-guk's future. Finally, the landlady agrees to become Song-guk's manager, and Kim, overwhelmed with gratitude, lunges at her, giving her a big hug in thanks for her decision. Meanwhile, back in his office, Song-jung summons his assistant, who presents a file containing detailed information about the landlady, Myeong, and her connection to Song-guk's family. After reviewing the information, Song-jung declares that if Song-guk and his family won't join him, he will show them just how harsh the entertainment industry can be and orders reporters to be summoned immediately. The next morning, the filming of the reality show begins, and the first thing Michael and Song-guk do is start an eating contest. When Taeyang asks them what they're doing, Michael enthusiastically shouts that he loves bananas and is eating them. Just like Michael, Song-guk is eating as much as he can, determined to eat all the bananas so that none will be left for Michael. Meanwhile, director Junha, the assistant director, and the others all look on in amusement, thoroughly enjoying the scene as they watch Michael and Song-guk bicker like cats and dogs. Only Taeyang looks exasperated, letting out a deep sigh before shouting at them to cut it out. A few hours later, Junha announces that filming is over for now, allowing everyone to take a break and prepare for the evening show. Kim's belly has grown considerably as her pregnancy progresses, and she beams with pride, happily watching the fun unfold during the shoot. Junha approaches her and asks if she's finding it exhausting to wait around on set all the time, telling her to let them know if it gets too tiring. Kim, rubbing her hands gently over her swollen stomach, thanks him for his concern. Junha then asks when her due date is, and Kim replies that it's approaching soon, probably in late December. Switching the topic, Junha says that the viewers are really enjoying the chemistry between Michael and Kim, but agrees that Michael sometimes takes things too far and asks if it ever upsets her. Kim smiles and reassures him, saying that she's never upset and trusts everyone on set, especially Junha, to look after Song-guk if things get out of hand. Stretching his arms and yawning sleepily, Taeyang wonders if they should eat too, since they've been watching Michael and Song-guk eat for so long. Meanwhile, Song-guk is completely stuffed, barely able to breathe after gorging himself on banana after banana, and he begins to feel drowsy. Just then, Michael approaches him from behind, calling him a brat with a warning tone in his voice. Gritting his teeth, Michael snarls at Song-guk, asking how dare he hit him earlier. Song-guk isn't intimidated, responding with a clenched fist and a threatening look, calling Michael an idiot as he can now speak a few words. Feeling disrespected by being called an idiot, Michael calls Song-guk a crazy baby and leans down to pinch his cheek gently, but this causes Song-guk to burst into tears, wailing loudly. This startles Michael, who immediately tries to calm Song-guk down, but instead, Song-guk only cries louder, his pitch growing higher. Hearing the crying, the landlady, Myeong, enters the room and asks Michael if he just pinched Song-guk. Song-guk, grinning widely, knows his plan to sabotage Michael is working perfectly. Myeong warns Michael to stop harassing Song-guk and putting his hands on him, but Michael argues back, claiming he did nothing wrong and asking why Myeong is acting like Song-guk is innocent. Myeong reminds Michael that he owes his success in landing so many commercials to Song-guk. She grabs Song-guk, turns to leave, and tells Michael to consider her words and stay away from Song-guk. Once alone, Michael feels his body tremble with anger as he grits his teeth, cursing Myeong inwardly for trying to put all the blame on him. By now, he has had enough of this ridiculous prog Song-guk, and since Song-guk is benefiting so much from it, he wonders if he can somehow ruin it all. Just then, the phone rings, and Michael answers it, freezing in shock when he realizes the call is from Sinsung Entertainment. A few weeks later, director Junha summons Kim, Song-guk, Myeong, and Taeyang to the headquarters, thanks them for coming on short notice, and pulls out an envelope, saying it contains a bonus for them. He points out that their viewership surpassed 30% last week and notes that since there are only a few episodes left, they should keep up the great work and do their best. Placing some papers on the table, Junha informs them that today's main agenda is planning a special Christmas episode, as the higher-ups have requested a 90-minute special with a warm, family-friendly atmosphere due to Christmas approaching. Kim helps Song-guk stand on his own tiny feet, and they both look excited to do the Christmas-themed show. As Junha shares his plans to dress everyone in Christmas outfits and have a dance party, Kim's eyes light up at the thought of such a fun idea. Satisfied that everyone is happy with the plan, Junha suggests they discuss the details, just as the door bursts open and the assistant director rushes in, holding a fresh newspaper that features an article about Song-guk's family. The article quickly spreads across the news, with 2 reporters discussing how Song-guk, the so-called rising child actor, is being abused by his parents and forced to work against his will. Before the reporters can make any more baseless accusations, Jun-ha turns off the TV, and an eerie silence fills the room as everyone processes what was just said. Most of all, Kim looks shaken, her eyes swelling with tears and a concerned expression on her face. Trying to reassure her, Jun-ha tells her everything will be alright, explaining that this kind of thing is common in the industry, where people try to disrupt a successful show. Myung vows to look into the matter and uncover why such a damaging article was published. With a stern look and a decisive tone, Song-guk rises to his feet and shouts out that everything is fine, before pointing at Jun-ha and unexpectedly firing him, completely catching Jun-ha off guard. Ji-seon quickly grabs Song-guk and pulls him back, scolding him for speaking so rudely to the director. Song-guk knows it will be a difficult task to figure out what the enemies are trying to gain by attacking the show, but since Jun-ha knows many people in the industry, only he can handle it personally, so Song-guk tried to fire him. Jun-ha, realizing what Song-guk is planning, smirks knowingly and agrees that Song-guk is right and that he must take care of things by himself. He then tells Song-guk's parents to be extra cautious and stay home as much as possible, warning that some people might try to stalk them or cause harm during this time. Kim asks what will happen to Song-guk, and Myung offers to take him with her and keep an eye on him. Jun-ha thinks this is the perfect solution and asks Myung to ensure that no harm comes to Song-guk, before rising to his feet and heading out to meet the assistant director. He tells her that the article has criticized Song-guk's parents, accusing them of attending every one of Song-guk's shows and interfering, and then he asks if she was the one who leaked this information, but she vehemently denies it. Trusting her, Jun-ha wonders who might be behind it, as there is no one in his group who seems suspicious enough to betray them. A few weeks later, the outside is blanketed in snow, and at night, the air is cold and crisp, while a figure, clad in a heavy jacket with their face obscured by a mask and sunglasses, pushes a baby carriage down the street. The stranger is none other than Kim herself, who sought some fresh air in the Christmas snow, feeling restless from staying indoors, while the one she pushes in the carriage is Song-guk. Song-guk looks fed up, clearly tired of being confined to the stroller like a prisoner, barely able to move or walk on his own. Kim overhears the 2 women talking about the Just Baby show and pauses, turning her head to listen. The women express how much they love this week's Christmas-themed episode, praising how amazing Taeyong looked and how adorable Song-guk appeared in his beautiful costume. Hearing them praise the show and compliment Song-guk, Kim feels a surge of happiness and pride, momentarily forgetting all the hardships they've faced. However, her smile fades when the women bring up the article, discussing how Song-guk's parents are greedy and forcing him to work, not giving him any time to be a child or enjoy life. Just then, the traffic light changes, and the 2 women cross the street, walking away, leaving Kim and Song-guk alone as she stands, visibly deflated, hearing them believe the lies in the article. Ji-seon comes running up, delighted to see his wife and son after finishing his work, and asks if they came to get him. But when he sees that Kim is in tears, he quickly embraces her, asking if everything is alright and if something bad happened. The next day, Ji-seon visits the director, Jun-ha, and tells him everything about the previous night, when Kim overheard the 2 women and became upset, and he exclaims that this can't continue any longer. Sincerely apologizing, Jun-ha points out that, despite the broadcasting company's efforts to keep reporters in check, the rumors have already spread far and wide. Tapping the table, Jun-ha declares that the only viable approach now is to confront the issue head-on and asks Ji-seon if he is willing to do a live interview with Kim to speak the truth and clear things up for the media. After the Christmas-themed episode of Just Baby, the final episode is scheduled for release on January 7th as a special New Year's event. The assistant director turns on the television, and as the episode begins broadcasting, she instructs Ji-seon and Kim to walk before the camera and prepare for their interview. She reminds them that they have exhausted every method to calm the controversy without success, making this live interview their last hope. Kim takes deep breaths, feeling her nerves tightening, while Ji-seon, with tears welling in his eyes, apologizes for putting her in such a difficult position when she is about to give birth, causing her unnecessary stress. However, Kim gently tells him that it is fine and reminds him that they are doing all of this for Song-guk, making Ji-seon feel deeply grateful for her understanding as they embrace each other with love. Just then, the landlady, Myung, arrives carrying Song-guk in her arms, revealing that she rushed over the moment she heard about the interview. Song-guk, caught off guard by his parents' decision to take such bold action, wonders if this move might be too risky when Kim suddenly lifts him up and holds him close, assuring him to trust her and promising to put an end to all the rumors. Hearing his mother's words, Song-guk realizes that his parents are enduring this entire ordeal just for his sake, and as he hugs her back, both Myung and the assistant director are deeply moved by their love. At that moment, a sudden knock on the door startles everyone, and as the assistant director opens it, expecting director Junha, she is taken aback to see Taeyoung, who immediately turns to flee when she informs him that the live interview is about to begin. Outside, a large number of reporters and journalists have already arrived, despite not being invited, meaning that someone must have leaked the information once again. Taeyoung frantically waves his hand in the air, trying to grab Junha's attention, and as Junha notices his panicked expression, he quickly approaches to find out what is wrong. Taeyoung, barely catching his breath, urges Junha to stop the interview immediately, warning that the overwhelming number of reporters will only make things worse for his group. However, Junha solemnly informs him that the interview has already begun, and despite his best efforts, there was no way to stop it. Meanwhile, inside the interview hall, Kim and Jiseong sit at the front as dozens of reporters aggressively flash their cameras, bombarding them with relentless attention. Kim struggles under the blinding camera lights, her nervousness intensifying, while Jiseong attempts to comfort her, but as the noise and chaos grow unbearable, he suddenly shouts for the reporters to quiet down. He firmly states that Kim is in the final stages of her pregnancy, and that their endless camera flashes are making her extremely uncomfortable. One of the reporters, ignoring his plea, questions why Jiseong arranged for a live interview if his wife is struggling with such difficulties. Jiseong, his voice unwavering, declares that they needed to address the false articles spreading malicious rumors, explaining that he and Kim both grew up in an orphanage with nothing and have worked tirelessly after marriage to give Song-guk a good life. Raising his voice with conviction, he makes it clear that neither he nor Kim have ever exploited Song-guk for money, nor have they taken advantage of his rights for personal gain. The same reporter asks why they should believe Jiseong's words, then demands proof of how much money he has made using Song-guk, instantly fueling Song-guk's frustration. In a sudden burst of emotion, Song-guk jumps out of Kim's arms, lands on his small feet, and stands firmly before his parents, shouting at the reporters to stop and warning them not to bully his mom and dad. Though his tiny face may not fully show his fury, deep inside, Song-guk is burning with rage, and if this were his past life, he would have ensured these reporters faced consequences. Taeyoung quickly leans toward Young and whispers in a low voice, instructing him to cut the live broadcast immediately, and in response, Junha steps forward to announce that the interview is now over. Song-guk turns to Jiseong, concern evident in his eyes, and asks if he is alright, to which Jiseong lifts him into his arms and assures him that he is fine, apologizing for not being able to express himself better. Song-guk then shifts his gaze toward Kim and asks if she is alright, but the moment he sees her face, his heart drops as she clutches her stomach and gasps in distress, revealing that she is experiencing contractions, sending shockwaves of fear through both Jiseong and Song-guk. Without wasting a moment, they call an ambulance and rush to the hospital after carefully placing Kim inside. Jiseong and Song-guk sit beside the bed, their faces filled with worry as they continuously urge Kim to hold on. In a faint voice, Kim, lying on her back, assures Song-guk that she is fine and tells him not to worry too much. Meanwhile, Song-guk is in turmoil, his mind racing in frustration because he knows nothing about childbirth, and it infuriates him that he cannot help his struggling mother. Fast forward to the next day, the director and assistant director arrive at the hospital and are mesmerized upon seeing Song-guk cradling his newborn brother in his arms. With a warm smile, the assistant director acknowledges the pain Kim endured and asks how she is feeling, to which Kim replies that she is truly feeling much better now. The assistant director admires the baby, who has been named Mingguk, and reaches out to poke his chubby cheeks, but Song-guk swiftly slaps her finger away, warning her not to touch the baby since she hasn't washed her hands. Though momentarily taken aback, the assistant director chuckles and remarks that Song-guk is already acting like a responsible older brother, fiercely protecting his little sister. Of course, Song-guk would be protective. His so-called younger siblings in his past life were nothing but trouble, but in this life, he is determined to raise his brother properly. Director Junha asks if he can take a few pictures of Mingguk and Song-guk, explaining that ever since the live interview, the viewers have been on their side, and Jiseong grants permission. The assistant director eagerly pulls out her camera and starts capturing perfect shots shots of Song-guk holding Min-guk. While the photoshoot continues, Ji-seong asks Junha about what happened after they abruptly left the interview, and Junha replies that the situation is nearly settled. Meanwhile, back on set, the other idols discover a hidden pager belonging to Michael and immediately confront him. Taeyong points out that strange things have been happening lately, with confidential articles and interview details leaking to the media, and directly asks Michael if he is the one responsible. However, Michael snaps back angrily, denying any involvement and attempting to play innocent, but Taeyong reveals that they had Lucas follow him and saw him secretly meeting with Sungjung, the CEO of Sinsung Entertainment. Hearing this, Michael is left speechless, realizing he has been caught red-handed. Taeyong states that Myung had been suspicious of the CEO, and since the man has been tormenting Song-guk's family, he demands to know what Michael was thinking by helping someone like that. Meanwhile, Sungjung is facing relentless scrutiny as dozens of reporters swarm around him, demanding answers after the false articles he spread were exposed during Kim and Ji-seong's live interview. With his hood pulled over half of his face, Sungjung yells at the reporters, insisting that he knows nothing about the situation. Back at the hospital, after hearing everything, Ji-seong gasps in shock, admitting that he never expected Michael to betray them. Junha agrees, saying even he finds it difficult to believe that Michael went behind their backs, but reassures Ji-seong that Taeyong will personally make him apologize to everyone. Smacking his fist into his palm in frustration, Junha then asks Ji-seong if he needs anything, but Ji-seong shakes his head and thanks Junha for arranging such a nice private room and keeping his family together. Junha assures Ji-seong that he has nothing to worry about anymore, emphasizing that every viewer is on their side now, and promises that he and Myung will handle the situation and file lawsuits against the reporters. Finally, he announces that they will take a 2-month break from the show and use pre-recorded footage during that time, instructing Ji-seong to focus on spending quality time with his family. 2 months pass, a wonderful period where Song-guk devotes himself to caring for his younger sister, and as spring arrives with flowers blooming across the city, a news channel reports the return of the popular show, Just Baby. In his apartment, Jae-hyung is watching the news on TV when Seonmi emerges from the bath, wrapping her arms around him from behind and asking what he is watching. She then notices Song-guk's face on the screen and immediately recognizes him, which prompts Jae-hyung to ask how she knows him. Seonmi reminds Jae-hyung that even he is familiar with Song-guk and recalls the time they first met him at the commercial shoot a few months ago. Jae-hyung nods as he remembers that encounter and remarks that there is something strangely captivating about Song-guk. Jumping onto Jae-hyung's lap, Seonmi eagerly explains that Song-guk's appeal lies in his genius, describing his exceptional acting talent and how versatile he is despite being just a child. Hearing this, Jae-hyung is surprised and admits that he thought Song-guk was nothing more than a child actor who had a brief stroke of luck and temporary fame. Raising her head high, her face inches from Jae-hyung's, Seonmi reveals that Sinsung Entertainment recently attempted to take advantage of Song-guk but failed completely, causing the CEO to face a wave of public backlash. Jae-hyung asks if she also works for Sinsung Entertainment, to which Seonmi firmly responds that she has decided to terminate her contract and leave the company. Jae-hyung then inquires about her plans moving forward and if she has a particular company in mind, but Seonmi only gives a knowing smile and says she has an idea and will take things slow to see how they unfold. She then suggests to Jae-hyung that if he is interested, he should consider investing in Song-guk, pointing out that it could be a smart move for marketing purposes in the long run. Meanwhile, back at Song-guk's house, Myung finishes preparing seaweed soup for lunch and serves the first bowl to Song-guk, who takes it eagerly, sniffing the rich aroma as his mouth waters. Like someone who hasn't eaten in days, he begins devouring the soup, marveling at how delicious Myung's cooking is. Myung fills another bowl and hands it to Kim, who thanks her for always cooking for them but curiously asks why she is so generous, mentioning how she never charges rent and constantly provides them with food and fresh fruit. Myung tells Kim that they are family and she could never charge her own family members, which makes Kim's eyes sparkle with gratitude as she feels overwhelmed with appreciation. Min-guk suddenly reaches out, trying to snatch Song-guk's bowl, but Song-guk quickly lifts it out of reach, keeping his meal safe from his younger brother's grasp. Kim and Myung chuckle softly, finding the playful interaction between the two brothers heartwarming and full of life. However, despite how sweet the moment looks, Song-guk knows the reality is far from peaceful, as the past 2 months of looking after Min-guk have taught him that taking care of a child is absolute chaos. Min-guk's endless crying, his refusal to sleep at night, his habit of waking Song-guk up every few minutes, and even not letting him go to the bathroom bathroom and peace have all become part of Songguk's exhausting daily routine. Songguk, drained from fatigue, tells Mingguk to sleep, but the baby widens his big, shimmering eyes, gazing up at him with an irresistible charm that tugs at Songguk's heart, leaving him with no choice but to feed him once again. Kim and Myung exchange delighted smiles, watching as the older brother, despite his exhaustion, continues to care for his little sibling with so much love. Changing the subject, Myung turns to Kim and asks if she has ever considered moving, pointing out that this house is far too small for raising 2 children. Kim sighs and admits that they simply don't have the money, but Myung leans in and quietly asks if she would consider it if they did, before revealing that Samjin Electronics has contacted her and wants to sign Songguk as their exclusive model. Kim's eyes widen in shock, and she gasps, asking if it is really true, to which Myung nods and confirms that Samjin will be sending over the contract details soon, noting that this could be a major financial breakthrough for them. Setting that topic aside for the moment, Myung suggests they eat quickly, reminding them that they have to head to the broadcasting station soon, and that a car will be arriving to pick them up. Just then, a knock sounds at the door, and assuming it to be the station's car, Myung opens it, only to freeze in shock as she finds Michael standing there instead. Spotting Michael, Songguk instantly springs to his feet, stepping right in front of his mother as if shielding her from an imminent attack. His heart pounding, Songguk stares unblinking at Michael, his eyes filled with suspicion, while Michael meets his gaze in complete, tense silence. Suddenly, Taeyong appears behind Michael, playfully pushing him aside before waving cheerfully at Songguk and the others, his hand landing on Michael's back in a casual slap as he jokingly asks if he frightened them. Songguk and the 2 women remain silent, their expressions unreadable, as Michael lowers his head slightly and apologizes, admitting he was a terrible person and deserves any misfortune that comes his way. However, Songguk doesn't care in the slightest about Michael's remorse and scowls at him, only to be left stunned when Kim, with her ever-gentle nature, suggests that Michael must have had his reasons, and that perhaps they could all get along from now on. Songguk thinks that his mother is far too kind for such a cruel world, and he silently vows to be more cautious and sharp, ensuring she never trusts people so easily again. Laughing heartily, Taeyong urges everyone to stop chatting and get moving to the station, reminding them they are already behind schedule. Half an hour later, they finally arrive at headquarters, where Junha, upon spotting Songguk, rushes toward him, tears brimming in his eyes, and Songguk does the same, throwing himself into Junha's arms as they embrace after 2 long months apart. Songguk's overwhelming joy comes from the fact that he would rather drown himself in endless work than continue the exhausting, soul-draining task of parenting, which he has endured for the past 2 months. Turning his attention away from Songguk, Junha greets Kim with a warm smile before his eyes land on Mingguk, and leaning in with delight, he exclaims that Mingguk has somehow become even cuter in just 2 months. But before anyone can react, Mingguk suddenly bursts into tears, and as Junha, startled, asks why he is crying, Kim explains with a gentle chuckle that Mingguk refuses to be apart from Songguk for even a single moment. Songguk feels exhaustion creeping in, haunted by endless parenting, and prays Junha starts filming quickly to avoid carrying Mingguk. Turning to Myung, Junha greets her and then mentions that there have been some minor changes over the past 2 months, and since everyone is finally gathered, he suggests they move forward, announcing that they will be filming a total of 20 episodes, with the finale set for September. A glint of excitement flashes in Junha's eyes as he passionately declares that the first episode of the season will feature a breathtaking cherry blossom picnic set in a park that has been reserved exclusively for filming. Taeyong, along with the other idol members, is already at the park, and the moment they catch sight of Songguk, they collectively gasp in awe, marveling at how he looks like an ethereal cherry blossom fairy. Songguk basks in the attention and admiration, his nose lifting slightly in pride, soaking in the compliments as a cool and confident smile graces his lips. The assistant director claps her hands and urges the crew to stop fooling around, instructing them to take their positions and prepare for filming, prompting Jaehyun to lift Songguk off the ground and get ready. A few minutes later, a sleek black car glides to a halt outside the park, and the driver informs John Jaehyung, who is seated in the back, that they have arrived at the location, prompting him to step out of the car. The flashback scenes are not needed. As the filming continues, Jaehyun is the first to notice Jaehyung approaching, and with a quick nudge, he alerts Taeyong, who turns his head, while Songguk, following their gaze, freezes in shock as he finds himself staring into the eyes of the man who was his father in his past life. Born as the eldest son of the grandfather who founded Samjin, Jaehyang was raised as the rightful successor, and his approach to leadership was distinctly different from that of his grandfather. He was known as a founding monarch, a conqueror, and a ruler who prioritized results above all else. And if there was one word that defined Jaehyang, it was results-driven. He was a man who cared for nothing but outcomes, disregarding emotions entirely, showing no concern for his wife, no attachment to his company, and not even the slightest affection for his children. Taeguk and Mijin, Songguk's siblings, who struggled to meet Jaehyang's unrelenting expectations, were constantly plagued by feelings of inadequacy and inferiority. As for Songguk, he was the kind of child who defied his father's rigid standards, surpassing them entirely, and as time passed in his previous life, their relationship grew more distant until they regarded each other as mere acquaintances rather than father and son. Now, in the present, Songguk finds himself face to face with Jaehyang once again, and in an unguarded moment, he accidentally calls him dad, only to freeze in horror the instant he realizes his mistake. Jaehyang leans down to Songguk's level, his expression unreadable, and greets him before kneeling in front of him, curiously asking if he knows who he is. But Songguk scoffs, turns away, and denies any familiarity. Jaehyang calmly questions why Songguk called him father then, prompting Songguk to raise his voice in a frantic denial. But Jaehyang remains unfazed, confidently stating that he is certain he heard the word. Just then, the director, Junha, and Kim come rushing over, clearly surprised by Jaehyang's presence, and hastily ask if there's anything he needs. Jaehyang casually replies that he only wanted to see Songguk for a moment before leaving, and Junha, taken aback, hesitates before asking why, to which Jaehyang simply states that he was curious to see Songguk in person, remarking that the boy's bright eyes remind him of his younger self. Without lingering on the topic, he then turns to Kim and inquires whether she has reviewed the contract he had sent, to which Kim promptly affirms that she has. As he prepares to leave, Jaehyang instructs Kim to inform him if there are any additional conditions she wishes to include, but before she can respond, Songguk suddenly shouts the word money, causing Kim to clasp her hands over his mouth in a panic. Jaehyang, however, hears the word clearly, and finding it amusing, bursts into laughter before gently ruffling Songguk's hair and promising that he will have the money ready, instructing Kim to meet him when she is prepared to finalize the deal. Kim, after regaining her composure, agrees to meet him in a few days to settle everything, and with that, Jaehyang turns away once more and walks off, offering a final farewell. Watching his father step into his car, Songguk remains rooted in place, still grappling with the realization that he has crossed paths with his real father once again, and as his mind drifts, he recalls a moment from his previous life when Jaehyang had approached him to entrust him with a major company project, a moment that had once filled him with pride and the desperate desire to earn his father's recognition, and in the present, he can't help but let a small, fleeting smile cross his lips. As soon as Jaehyang leaves, director Junha shouts for the crew to resume filming, and Songguk promptly responds, yes. Over the next few months, the shooting schedule continues as planned, beginning with a spring picnic, followed by various indoor activities, leading up to a special summer vacation episode at the beach, and eventually, the arrival of September. One day, during a routine shoot, a swarm of excited fangirls manages to discover the filming location, causing an uproar as they crowd around, much to the assistant director's growing frustration as he grumbles that they aren't letting them work in peace. Songguk has grown significantly, now capable of walking on his own with confidence, and likewise, the five idols have matured, rapidly rising to fame as one of Korea's most beloved groups, having released multiple successful albums over the past 6 months. Naturally, Songguk himself has also shot numerous high-profile commercials, solidifying his status as one of the most recognized names in the industry, captivating audiences worldwide. He has even heard that the directors have been granted massive performance bonuses, and now, with the show Just Baby that brought them all into the spotlight nearing its conclusion, only one final shoot remains after this. Deciding to step out first, Songguk walks through the alley with a confident stride, but just as he moves forward, an unseen hand suddenly emerges from the shadows, gripping his arm tightly, sending a jolt of fear through him as he freezes in place. But it turns out to be Taeyong, who gestures for Songguk to stay quiet as he tries to hide from the fans, before leaning in and asking Songguk for a favor. Songguk feels a sudden surge of frustration toward Taeyong for nearly giving him a heart attack, but despite his irritation, he agrees to help and asks him what the matter is. Just then, the assistant director arrives and, spotting the two whispering in the alley, questions what they are doing there instead of being on set for filming. She swiftly leads them into the dorm, where the cameras have been set up for shooting, and makes Taeyong sit before the camera camera before handing him a microphone. As the camera starts rolling, director Junha asks Taeyoung what is going on, and Taeyoung, trying to appear nervous, explains that they are about to release their next album but have been unable to decide on a title track, causing a divide among the members. He then claims that they have asked Songguk to pick the title song, and the camera shifts to Songguk, who is seated on the floor, listening intently to multiple tracks through various CDs. Taeyoung adds that they were initially hesitant to entrust a 3-year-old with such an important decision, but notes that over the past year, Songguk has shaped them, guided them, and taught them a great deal, so they ultimately decided to let him leave his mark on their album. After carefully listening to multiple tracks, Songguk finally removes his headphones, his confidence shining through as he points to one of the CDs and declares it the best title track among them all. Jaehyun appears thrilled by the decision, but Lucas does not seem pleased with Songguk's choice. Director Junha asks about the nature of the song, and Taeyoung explains that Jaehyun played a role in its production and, among the 3 competing tracks, it stands out the most in style, making it reasonable that Songguk would choose it. The reason Songguk picked this particular track is because, in his past life, he had heard it before, and it had become a nationwide sensation, a song so popular that even he, someone who was never a fan of music, had memorized parts of its lyrics simply from hearing it everywhere. However, Lucas still refuses to accept this choice and tries to convince Songguk to reconsider, but Songguk remains firm, gripping the CD tightly before showing it to Taeyoung and announcing with finality that his decision is made. With a warm smile, Taeyoung acknowledges Songguk's choice, and as he and the others start cheering and celebrating, only Lucas remains still, silently shedding tears. A few days later, Myeong leads Songguk to a dimly lit room and tells him to step inside, and as he enters with a growing sense of unease, fearing something lurking within the darkness, the lights suddenly flare on, confetti bursts into the air, and 5 idols cheerfully sing him a happy birthday as a large cake sits on the table. Director Junha and the assistant director are also present, and as the camera captures Songguk's reaction, she asks him how he feels, to which Songguk, his face brimming with excitement, shouts that he absolutely loves it. After several minutes of fun and laughter, including the group tossing Songguk into the air and catching him, director Junha brings out a platter of Korean beef, prepared specially by the station, and tells everyone to enjoy. Lucas takes the first bite of the beef, and as the rich flavors melt in his mouth, he suddenly starts crying, overwhelmed by how incredible it tastes, while Songguk, equally delighted, eagerly devours more. Once the meal is finished, they all raise their glasses, clink them together, and celebrate with joy, relishing the unforgettable moment. As she watches everyone laughing and enjoying themselves, Myeong finds her eyes welling up slightly with emotion. Just then, a man enters the apartment and approaches Kim, stating that he was sent by Jaehyung to deliver a parcel in honor of the show's completion and Songguk's birthday. Kim eagerly accepts the parcel and, opening it with excitement, expresses her gratitude to the delivery man, who casually remarks that it is nothing and advises her to review the contract and decide when she has time, to which Kim nods and promises to visit the office as soon as possible. The very next day, Kim, along with Songguk and Myeong, heads out to visit Jaehyung, and as they travel, Songguk's heart pounds with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation as he prepares to meet his father for the 3rd time. However, beyond his apprehension, he also feels a growing excitement, eager to uncover Jaehyung's true intentions, knowing all too well his history of cunning schemes. When they arrive at the main office, an assistant approaches them with a warm greeting and asks them to follow her, informing them that the vice chairman is expecting their arrival. She leads them into Jaehyung's office, where he stands by the window, and upon hearing them enter, he turns around and welcomes them with a friendly smile. They take their seats as a chef enters, carrying an assortment of food and drinks, serving them graciously, and Songguk immediately notices that the cookies are his favorite from his past life. Taking a sip of tea, Myeong expresses her gratitude for Jaehyung's hospitality, to which Jaehyung responds casually and then asks if they have reviewed the contract terms. Myeong acknowledges that they have gone through the clauses and remarks that the offer is overwhelmingly generous, as it includes a 3-year exclusive contract with a signing bonus of 150 million won, which shocks Songguk so much that he spits out the tea he was drinking. With a slight smile, Songguk muses that this contract is unexpectedly favorable since he initially suspected there might be hidden traps, but 150 million won is is undeniably a substantial amount. However, Song-guk is also well aware that such treatment is usually reserved for only the most famous celebrities, making him wonder what Jae-hyung's true intentions might be. Noticing the puzzled expression on Myeong's face, Jae-hyung inquires if something is troubling her, and Myeong admits that she doesn't understand why he is willing to offer such a large amount. Without hesitation, Jae-hyung explains that it is simply an investment, nothing more, as his assistant hands Myeong a poster outlining Samjin's scholarship program, which is designed to discover and support exceptional talent. He further reveals that the first recipient chosen for this prestigious scholarship is none other than Song-guk, causing Kim to gasp in astonishment. Tapping his fingers lightly on the table, Jae-hyung states that, in his eyes, Song-guk is truly extraordinary, both intelligent and fearless, and he believes that with the right support, Song-guk can grow into an exceptional individual. Kim opens her mouth to respond, but before she can say anything, Song-guk cuts her off, rising slightly from his seat and firmly accepting the offer, his expression filled with determination. The reason he agrees without hesitation is because he knows from his past life that his father deeply valued and sought out talented individuals. Speaking through the presence inside him, Song-guk proclaims with unwavering resolve, his eyes gleaming with ambition, that he will become the best and prove himself, while Kim finds his confidence a bit overwhelming and feels slightly embarrassed. However, Jae-hyung is genuinely impressed by Song-guk's boldness and remarks that he admires such a strong spirit in someone so young, reinforcing his desire to support him even further. Standing up from his seat, he announces that he will have the contract redrafted and advises Kim and Myeong to carefully consider their decision before giving their final response. Later that night, after putting Song-guk and Min-guk to bed, Kim approaches Jiseong, who is reviewing the revised contract, and she asks him what he thinks about it. Carefully reading through the document again, Jiseong comments that he has never seen a contract of this nature before, especially one offering an astonishing amount of 150 million won. Kim admits that she feels nervous and still finds it difficult to believe that someone as influential as Samjin's vice chairman is taking such an interest in Song-guk, fearing that something could go wrong. Unbeknownst to them, Song-guk is leaning against the wall in the next room, listening intently to their conversation, fully understanding why Kim and Jiseong would be worried. He recognizes that it is completely reasonable for them to be cautious, as they have never even seen a few million won before, let alone an offer worth hundreds of millions. It is like a creature raised inside a small enclosure, only to suddenly be released and discover an entire world beyond its previous existence. Because Kim and Jiseong grew up in poverty, they naturally hesitate when faced with an opportunity involving money beyond their wildest imagination, as such things can feel intimidating and overwhelming. Gripping Kim's shoulders gently, Jiseong asks if they should accept the contract, pointing out that it would allow Song-guk to live an entirely different life, attend prestigious schools, and grow into a remarkable person. Outside the room, Song-guk listens with growing excitement, feeling pleased that Jiseong is considering accepting the contract, as it aligns perfectly with his own desires. Jiseong solemnly states that he does not want Song-guk to experience the hardships he faced in his own youth, and is willing to take this opportunity for his sake. The following day, Jae-hyung's assistant arrives after receiving a message from Jiseong and Kim, and he hands them a revised contract that now has a 2-year duration instead of 3, and offers 100 million won instead of 150 million. The assistant then unlocks his suitcase, retrieves another document, and informs them that before Kim signs the contract, a minor adjustment needs to be made, leaving all three of them in suspense as they wonder what this unexpected change entails. Smiling slightly, the secretary says, "We'd like to make some changes to the contract as well." Visibly shaken, she asks, "What contract terms do they want to change?" Holding the documents, he says, "First, there are 2 things I need to mention." But suddenly, our boy snatches the document and starts analyzing like a pro, startling everyone there. Jae-soo looks closely at the document, reaching out his hand. The secretary tells them to give that to him, saying, "That's stocks and apartments, something only adults would look at." Stunned, Jae-young asks Secretary Yang, "What does this mean?" But he's shocked to find out our little boy already knows about stocks. Holding the document excitedly, he questions, "What is this?" To which, Yang tries to calm him down. Our boy just intentionally made Secretary Yang flustered, even though acting like a child at this age is kind of cringeworthy. But if it's to uncover my father's scheme, it's worth it. With big, sparkling eyes, he speaks enthusiastically. "Tell me quickly." Shocked, she asks our boy if he can read, and he proudly declares that he can. Even the secretary finds it amazing. He is just 3 years old and can even read difficult words. words. Excitedly raising his hand, the secretary declares that he will explain everything. He says that since Song Yu-K's parents lowered the contract deposit from 150 million to 100 million, so as a token of appreciation, we will give you electronic stock worth 50 million, shocking the mother. Also, the premium apartment in Jamsil, they plan to offer a special ownership of it, which shocks our boy. While the mom thinks that's too much, Lil Elon carefully scans the documents again. But there's a catch. He finds the mandatory employment clause, which says the stocks will be returned immediately on the breach of the contract. It's the old tempting someone with rewards to make them feel like family, but he only rewards them if it seems appropriate to him. Our boy realized that it is a temptation to make him pledge loyalty and serve him. Knowing this, he shuts the documents, saying this is great. Our little boy fist bumps the secretary, saying, give it all to me. I will do it. But his mother holds him back, saying he cannot do it. Our boy just wants to sign the contract. Knowing that the price of the stocks in the apartments will skyrocket, he yells that he is going to make all of that is, shocking his mother. But the landlord advises her that this is a great opportunity for everyone, and let's sign the contract. The landlord lady tells the secretary Yang that it's a great contract, but it is too big for an individual, so she insists on doing a business-to-business agreement. It will be a management company dedicated solely to our boy, a one-person agency, which makes the secretary even more delighted. Even little Elon knows that it is a great idea since there will be more contracts in the future, but he's happy because it will be the first company under his name. A few days ago, we found out that it was manager Kim who had come up with this idea, but secretly, little Elon is planning to grow this small company into a massive global corporation. Optimistically, the secretary sees if he can support the agency's establishment as well. Lil Elon uses his fingerprints to happily sign the contract, and everyone is delighted with the outcome. Back inside Lil Elon's house, he rests on his father's lap, glad to have signed the contract. His father is shocked that, at the age of 3, he already knows about stocks and apartments. Shocked that our little Elon can already read, he has made his dad really proud. Currently, his mother tells everyone to come and eat dinner first. The family is having a feast, as the deposit has already been made in Lil Elon's contract. The mom even added some meat into Lil Elon's baby food, and this is actually his first time tasting meat in his life. The mom asks our protagonist if it's good, and he gives a thumbs up in agreement. Happily, he says thank you for the food, and goes directly for the meatballs. Meanwhile, the mom asks Dad, how did the talk with his boss go? Turns out, his boss was really supportive and even suggested opening his store. This caught everyone in the family off guard. Thanks to little Elon, we managed to save some capital. Maybe in 2 years, we could afford a commercial space. The wife looks excited, as the boss had also said that he will teach him everything about running the store. Even Lil Elon says he loves the idea. Patting his son, he thanks him that because of him, he can now pursue his passion. Meanwhile, the lady who recommended our little Elon to the chairman is on the phone with Secretary Yang. She finds out that our boy has signed the official contract and also established a one-person agency. She immediately hangs up the phone after getting the information, and we find out a scary-looking businessman was listening to this information. And guys, that was the end of the latest chapter, which is chapter 23. The next chapter will be out by next week, and we will be covering this manhwa again. Till then, you can check this overpowered protagonist, who can steal other people's people ability. The man in white suit is pissed finding out that Songguk signed an exclusive model contract with Samjin Electronics Establishment one-man agency. Man in white suit slams the desk. Those damn freaking bastards. How dare they mess with me and flaunt like this? With rage filling his eyes, he vows to not let it slide so easily. The actress sighs as the man declares that he will make sure that those thugs won't be able to show their faces in public. Hearing her response, he gets shocked, but she explains that the Lil Elon is not the same as the Lil Elon before the fame. Are you daring to mess with the vice chairman Jae-hyung's product? Straupling the old man. Turning back, she adds that by the look of the contract, the vice chairman has high expectations from Lil Elon, and if you ruin such an important product, then that power business tycoons will never forgive you. Realizing his situation, the angry man slams his fists on the table with frustration. Yelling, he shouts at the blonde actress to stop talking nonsense and get out, and bring the contract renewal documents properly. While she leaves with a smile, looking at the contract, she realizes that her boss doesn't understand that she is not the blonde actress from 7 years ago, as she tears the contract. Meanwhile, at our Lil Elon's $50,000 home, he is lying peacefully with a cucumber mask on his face, feeling really good and moisturizing from natural skincare. We find out that by signing the exclusive contract with Samjin, there have been various changes in Lil Elon's life. First, manager Kim has become very busy with all sorts of paperwork after establishing the one-person agency. His dad decided to open a restaurant near the Jamsil apartment very soon, while he was undergoing harsh kimchi making techniques under the old chef. And mom, she was busy dealing with the constant crying of my lil bro. So with all that happening, Lil Elon decided to take care of his skin along with his mother due to the dry weather. In his his past life, Korea's Elon spent millions of dollars per session for his skincare. But these strange cucumber slices feel even better to him. It must be because it is filled with mother's love, right? Pinching Lil Elon, his mother showers praises at our boy and tells him to stay with his lil brother while he sleeps peacefully. But suddenly, he realizes that it's already time for the chart announcement. Looking at the TV, he finds out that because of his recommendation, the BTS gang managed to stay at top 1 place for 10 weeks straight. While munching on cucumbers, Lil Elon is proud that those kids are doing well, thinking that these brats should better repay him after all that success. And with a serious expression, he is thinking about that mysterious person. But suddenly, some calls his name, startling him, while his mothers tell the person to come in, running at an incredible speed. It's someone who is hiding all their identity with a mask and glasses. Both Lil Elon and his mom are scared looking at this anonymous person, whose eyes are locked on our boy. Shouting so cute, that person rushes toward Lil Elon, while both of them are scared of what's happening right now. But his mom steps in between, demanding to know who it is, and why you are rushing towards my son. Apologizing, it's the famous blonde actress we saw earlier, who says she was really happy to see Lil Elon after a long time. With a bright expression, she asks have they been? Both he and his mom are speechless to find out that it is the famous blonde actress, the Korean Marilyn Monroe. So with everything cleared, his mom pours some tea and tells her to please have it, while the Korean Marilyn Monroe looks at Lil Elon's house, thanking them. The Korean Marilyn Monroe smiles, which makes even Lil Elon blush. However, she gets startled when his mom asks Marilyn Monroe, "What brings you here today?" Dramatically, she reveals that she wanted to apologize to them all this time. Dumbfounded, the mom asks why. She replies saying, "You guys have been through a lot because of me, because of my recommendation," which makes Lil Elon look at her with some suspicion, while the mother acts like how any mother would. Softly, she adds that she saw Lil Elon's potential and wanted to work with him but didn't know that Samsung Group would take things this far. Blushing, our boy carefully watches the Korean Marilyn Monroe while she apologizes. He's being careful because in his past life, she and her millionaire husband were just business associates and nothing more. She even managed to have an affair with his billionaire father but didn't intentionally harm anyone. So he comes to the conclusion that it's best to not make an enemy of this cunning woman, and tells her that it's fine, making her relieved. With tears in her eyes, she's glad the apology is accepted, while his mother says that it's no big deal. She starts shedding tears of joy when her mom says that they are grateful that a famous actress like Marilyn Monroe took care of our Lil Elon, and we are thankful for that. Excited, the blonde actress announces that we are family, but without being fazed by the acting, Lil Elon asks about her boss, the angry millionaire in white suit, since she said she came from there. Faking a smile, she praises Lil Elon for his cleverness, while the mother scolds him. Taking out a document, she says she came here to deliver the contract from the Samsung Group which she took from Secretary Yang. Then give it to me, says Lil, but before that she has something to say first. Blushing, she says she heard about it. With a serious expression, she says that she has heard about Lil Elon's one-person agency and she would like to join this agency too, which catches even our little genius Elon off guard. Gasping in shock, Soyoung questions Xiaomi about how she even discovered that news and why she's interested, but Xiaomi cuts her off, claiming she desperately begged Secretary Yang to share the details with her. Furthermore, she explains that her exclusive contract with Shinseong Entertainment has officially ended, stating she was deeply disappointed in CEO Shin Seong and decided against renewing her agreement. She also mentions her desire to join an agency that truly cares for its actors like a close-knit family, which causes Soyoung to blush with warmth. To reinforce her act of genuine concern, Xiaomi sits directly beside Soyoung, grabs her shoulders gently, and explains it's a win-win situation for both, highlighting her fame could bring substantial profits and help establish the agency. Concealed behind her deceptive smile lies a cunning plan that, by securing a position, she can manipulate things much more easily to suit her own interests. Tricked by Xiaomi's convincing performance, Soyoung agrees to let her sign the contract, but just as they prepare to proceed, they turn in surprise to see Songguk standing with arms crossed, firmly declaring he won't allow it to happen. Hearing this unexpected opposition, both Xiaomi and Soyoung are taken aback, and while Soyoung appears displeased, Xiaomi maintains her calm demeanor and politely asks Songguk why he's against it. Songguk turns away, flops onto the floor as if he doesn't care at all, and casually says he doesn't know why but he simply doesn't like the idea of her joining. Slightly embarrassed by Songguk's odd behavior, Soyoung apologetically assures Xiaomi that he's just throwing a childish tantrum and suggests they can still discuss the contract further. Not accepting this, Songguk suddenly starts wailing and rolling on the floor, loudly shouting "no way" over and over again. Witnessing his biggest tantrum yet, Soyoung is genuinely shocked, her face turning pale with a mix of embarrassment, while Seonmi clasps her mouth in surprise. Meanwhile, all this crying and commotion disturbs Songguk's brother, Mingguk, who is sleeping in another room, stirring in his sleep before finally waking up with eyes wide open. A sudden, even louder cry startles Soyoung, who realizes her youngest son has woken up, prompting her to quickly jump to her feet and rush to calm him down. Seonmi, though frustrated with Songguk, keeps her calm tone and asks him why he dislikes her so much, playfully poking a finger at his cheek. Swatting her finger away from his face, Songguk scowls at Seonmi, giving her a look filled with deep resentment. From his past life experiences, Songguk knows Seonmi never does anything that doesn't benefit her, and her only reason for wanting to join his company is the future advantages she anticipates. This is the exact opposite of Songguk's goal, as he wants his company filled only with loyal people he trusts, not those looking to take advantage of him. Pointing a finger at Seonmi, Songguk summons his inner resolve and firmly tells her she's not part of his family, causing her to recoil slightly in surprise. At this point, Seonmi is utterly baffled, her forced smile unable to hide her shock, and before she can respond, Soyoung returns, holding Mingguk, who is still crying loudly. Realizing her plan to join the company has failed, Seonmi admits defeat, leaves the Samjin documents for Songguk to reconsider if he chooses, puts on her cap and glasses, gives a polite smile, bids goodbye, and walks away. Soyoung and Songguk watch as Seonmi disappears from view, and Songguk, with arms crossed and cheeks puffed out in thought, suddenly feels a jolt of fear as his mother calls him a naughty rascal. Like a typical upset mother, Soyoung shifts into a stern demeanor, angrily scolding Songguk for his rude behavior towards Seonmi, launching into a rant about the tantrum he threw. To stop her, Songguk grabs the Samjin document and hands it to Soyoung, who takes it, rips open the cover, pulls out the papers, and, looking quite surprised, reads it's an advertisement proposal for Namjoon Company's new electronics product featuring Songguk. The next day, Songguk, along with his mother and little brother, head to the requested location, which Soyoung finds absolutely beautiful and breathtaking. Director Junha spots the family, greets them with a wide, welcoming smile, and Songguk and his mother, equally delighted, happily return his warm greeting. Junha merrily looks down at Songguk and remarks that he has grown quite handsome, causing Songguk to flush and bask in the compliment, feeling proud of himself. Just then, a car pulls up, and the driver informs the man seated in the back seat that they have arrived at the destination. Peering out the back seat window, Jae-hyung, Samjin's chairman, spots Songguk, seeing him as the perfect asset for their advertisement and branding campaign. This time, Jae-hyung isn't alone. Seated beside him is his father, John Justin, the Samjin Group's chairman and Songguk's grandfather from his previous life. Jae-hyung steps out of the car first, then helps his father exit, who adjusts his tie with a smirking expression as he steps onto the ground. Turning slightly to his son, Justin tells Jae-hyung not to treat him like an elderly man, to which Jae-hyung, pushing up his glasses, insists he wasn't doing so. They then focus their attention on Ram, and Justin asks Jae-hyung why he's centering their commercial on a child actor when their company has always produced dignified and classy advertisements. Jae-hyung responds that their company needs to adapt to the latest advertising trends, prompting Justin, looking slightly irritated, to ask if Jae-hyung thinks his father's methods are outdated. With a scowling expression, Justin turns his back on his son and grumbles that Jae-hyung can do as he pleases. Noting that he seems overly confident, he then questions why Jae-hyung is investing so much effort in a mere child, to which Jae-hyung explains it's a strategic investment for the future. Hearing this, Justin, visibly annoyed and surprised, snaps and asks how a young child could possibly be considered a future investment. Jae-hyung recalls that a few days ago, Seonmi told him she wanted to join Ram's agency, and when he asked why, she explained it would be a valuable investment. She had elaborated that the entertainment and advertising industries are shifting toward being relatable and friendly to the public, pointing out that Ram is perfect for this, making him a worthwhile future investment. Back in the present, Justin notices Ram reading a script. His doubts about Ram fade, and he appears impressed that someone so young is already preparing for the shoot. He sighs and remarks that it would be great if Ram were Jae-hyung's son, noting that none of his grandchildren meet his high standards. Meanwhile, Ram, engrossed in the script, feels his ears itch suddenly and wonders if someone might be talking about him nearby. After reviewing the entire ad plot, Ram learns it's a commercial for a new vacuum cleaner, and he's confident this ad will shape Samjin's future business direction, determined to excel in the role and boost his value. Suddenly, his perfect moment shatters when someone shouts his name, and, startled, he turns to see the K-pop idols running toward him like excited fans. However, the idols bypass Ram and instead rush to greet Soyoung and Ram's little brother. Only the blonde-haired idol, Taeyoung, stops to greet Ram, asking how he's doing, to which Ram, blushing slightly, replies that he's doing well. He can't help but notice that the idols look strikingly different, their faces practically glowing with energy. The idols explain that thanks to Ram, they've been thriving, and their title song, which Ram chose, has held the #1 spot for 30 weeks straight. Hearing this, Soyoung is surprised and asks if it's true, and the idols confirm it, making Ram feel a bit embarrassed but proud. Ram then points at the idols with a businesslike expression and tone, demanding repayment for his help, and Taeyoung, grabbing and lifting him into the air, joyfully agrees to do whatever Ram asks. Clapping his hands to get everyone's attention, director Junha suggests they start filming immediately since everyone is present. As they enter the filming site, Taeyoung exclaims in awe that the set looks absolutely incredible. The assistant director, already on set, calls the idols over to her, and they quickly hurry toward her direction. Looking around, Ram asks where Michael is, since he's nowhere in sight, making Taeyoung and the other idols feel slightly awkward, as if they expected this question. Soyoung also notices Michael's absence and realizes she hasn't seen him since the beginning of the shoot. Kneeling to Ram's level, Taeyoung reveals that Michael has left the group, leaving Ram completely stunned by the news. Ram starts shouting, asking why Michael would leave, and Taeyoung, stepping back slightly, stammers that Michael simply chose to go. He further explains that when Ram scolded Michael for doing something wrong, Michael became upset and then left the country. Ram is utterly speechless, realizing this means the future has changed. As in his past life, Michael never left the group and stayed until the end, despite later troubles. This makes Ram wonder if his actions can truly alter the future. While lost in these unsettling thoughts, a sudden shout startles him, and he turns to see two idols about to fight, with the assistant director trying to calm them down. Clenching his teeth, Songuk tries to understand what's happening, sensing that something is definitely off. Jaehyun pushes away the assistant director, grabs Lucas by his jacket, and, with a face full of anger, accuses Lucas of looking down on him because he struggles with acting. Lucas explains he's just disappointed in Jaehyun's attitude, which angers Jaehyun further, and he yells loudly, while the assistant director suggests Jaehyun try acting himself if he dislikes Lucas's performance. Closing his eyes, Jaehyun declares he'll get serious, grabs the vacuum, and starts acting like a charming man, but his forced performance looks awkward, making Songuk and the assistant director cringe. Songuk shakes his head in embarrassment, knowing Jaehyun has a great personality and excels on stage, but when it comes to acting, he struggles significantly. In contrast, Lucas is the opposite. Though blunt and not idol-like in appearance, he can act exceptionally well. Tugging on his sleeve, Songuk suggests Lucas try the acting Jaehyun just attempted. Jaehyun agrees with Songuk and urges Lucas to give it a try, hoping he'll embarrass himself in the process. Lucas looks uncertain and hesitates, but Songuk gives him a thumbs up and reassures him that he can do it. Clearing his throat nervously, Lucas agrees to try, takes deep breaths, transforms his demeanor, and begins acting with the vacuum. Jaehyun, expecting Lucas to fail, is stunned by his impressive performance, and the assistant director exclaims in delight that it's perfect. Receiving such praise, Lucas blushes, his cheeks turning red, as the assistant director declares he'll take the role now. Songuk looks genuinely pleased and happy for Lucas's success. Meanwhile, Jaehyun, previously upset with Lucas, seems to forget his anger, smiles, and calls Lucas's performance amazing. Placing an arm around Lucas, Jaehyun encourages him to take the lead role confidently. Songuk is satisfied, a wide grin spreading across his face as he watches the two idols resolve their differences and work together happily. In his past life, Jaehyun and Lucas pursued solo activities, stopped group work, and remained awkward with each other. Now, seeing them close like real brothers, Songuk realizes things are changing, and while major events align with his past life, he can influence some differences. The shoot continues through the day, and when it's dark and wrapped up, Songuk is exhausted, dozing off in his mother's arms. As they prepare to leave, someone runs toward them, startling Soyoung, who sees it's Seonmi approaching with a wide smile on her face. Standing close to Soyoung, Seonmi offers any help they might need and suggests driving them home in her car. Minutes later, the car stops outside a grand restaurant, where two women are waiting to greet the arriving group. Seonmi reveals she booked a room for them, and Songuk, baffled, recognizes the place as his favorite restaurant from his past life, known for its black bean noodles. After freshening up, the group sits around a table and begin eating dinner together. Song-guk recalls how, in his previous life, he'd sneak to this restaurant alone to eat heartily, and now, returning in this life, his mouth starts to water and eyes tear up. Without hesitation, he starts devouring the noodles, while Soyoung notices the dishes look incredibly expensive. Seonmi reassures Soyoung not to worry about the cost, saying she'll show any sincerity to join the agency. She adds that, as another gesture of sincerity, she has dealt with President Shin Sung-jung's actions. She explains that President Shin Sung spread false rumors about her and the vice president, so they taught him a small lesson. Song-guk lets out a big burp after finishing his meal and, hearing Seonmi's words, finally announces she can join his agency. Overjoyed by this decision, Seonmi rises from her seat and asks Song-guk if he's truly serious. Song-guk's decision stems from learning the future can change, so he's hopeful that giving Seonmi a chance might transform her too. Still in disbelief that Song-guk agreed to let her join, Seonmi turns to Soyoung, pleading to be accepted and promising to work hard, to which Soyoung says she'll discuss it with her husband for a final decision. Later that night, back at their house, Soyoung explains everything to Jisung, who, after careful thought, states he's against letting Seonmi join them. Caught off guard by this decision, Soyoung asks Jisung why he is opposing it, to which Jisung sharply replies that they lack an office or employees to truly call themselves an agency. Song-guk carefully considers his dad's words and realizes he's right, as it all starts to make sense to him. Currently, SKJ is a one-person operation run by the manager handling everything, and even with Song-guk assisting with HR and planning, they still need someone to manage the company's finances. With eyes closed and arms crossed, Song-guk dives into deep thought, then snaps his eyes open after a few seconds, having come up with a brilliant idea, and dashes out of the room. Jisung tells the landlady they need to hire staff first, starting with an accountant to manage their finances. A minute later, Song-guk runs back into the room holding a basic accounting principles book, which Soyoung recognizes as hers, her face turning red with embarrassment as she quickly snatches it from him. The landlady asks Soyoung if it's true she studied accounting, to which Soyoung confirms she graduated from a commercial high school. Her cheeks flushing a deep red, Soyoung admits she considered working again but felt she lacked enough experience. With a reassuring wide smile, Song-guk tells Soyoung she can do it and that experience doesn't matter, causing her to tear up with gratitude. Meanwhile, Song-guk's inner confidence surges because he's found the perfect accountant for the company, someone he can fully trust. The landlady and Jisung both support Song-guk and agree that Soyoung is ideal for the job. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Soyoung exclaims she'll do her best and agrees to take on the role. The landlady reveals the unit upstairs just became available and suggests they set up the office there, offering to waive rent since she owns the building. Now that everyone is on same terms, Song-guk joyfully shouts they'll work together to grow SKJ into something huge. The next day, Seonmi arrives there with a large watermelon, saying she heard about the office setup and wanted to visit. Looking around the office, she notes the desks and supplies look very professional and says she likes neat, efficient spaces, even if they're small. She also remarks that a fancy, large office doesn't mean much, referring to President Shin Sung-jung. She then pulls out a newspaper and shows an article about her move to Song-guk's SKJ agency. Seeing the article, Soyoung is surprised it was published so quickly, to which Seonmi, with a slight blush, notes that SKJ can't back out now. Meanwhile, in the apartment, Song-guk is busy reading a story to his brother when Seonmi walks in, sees them, and feels emotionally touched. In contrast, Song-guk feels annoyed that Seonmi is meddling in his personal affairs. His younger brother leaps from Song-guk's arms, crawls around him playfully like a caterpillar, then climbs back, clinging to his shirt. Clapping her hands as if she's struck gold, Seonmi declares that since Song-guk's younger brother already seems mature, he can join them too. As for their destination, she reveals Vice Chairman Jae-hyung's son, John, is having his 10th birthday party at the Samjin Hotel on the evening of July 8th. Song-guk is particularly displeased about this party invitation because John, his brother in his previous life, was reckless and irritating. Lost in thought, his current younger brother pokes his cheek with a gleeful laugh, and Song-guk feels grateful this brother won't be like that troublesome John. Later that night, as Song-guk's family is sleeping soundly, the phone starts ringing suddenly, and Soyoung, half asleep, grabs it and speaks into it. Hearing her talk so loudly, Song-guk wakes up, rubs his eyes, and slides the door open to better hear what his mother is discussing. He learns the party scheduled for tonight has been postponed indefinitely and is taken aback by the news. Wondering if a major incident occurred, he rushes to the TV, turns it on, and hears a newsreader announce the government is holding an emergency meeting to prepare for a state of emergency. Song-guk finally realizes why July 8 felt familiar, as the news reports that Korea's supreme leader, Kim Sung, has passed away. Soyoung and Jisung, now fully awake, walk over to the television and stare in shock as the newsreader announces that the cause of death was a sudden heart attack. In Song-guk's previous life, Kim Sung's abrupt passing left the government, which was preparing to sign a peace agreement with North Korea, in disarray, fearing the Korean War might flare up again, with the US, China, and Japan all on high alert. North Korea, having lost its leader, plunged into internal turmoil, and some people even felt optimistic, believing the possibility of unification was drawing near. Based on Song-guk's knowledge, things will be unstable, so it's only natural that John's birthday party was cancelled. While lost in his thoughts, Song-guk is jolted back to reality when Jisung exclaims with concern that the stock market is spiraling into chaos. When Soyoung asks how he knows about stocks, Jisung nervously admits he's been studying them little by little since they acquired some Samsung shares recently. With the stock markets crashing, Song-guk urges they buy stocks now and shakes his father's arm, insisting he act quickly before the opportunity slips away. In Song-guk's past life, the Kospi index plummeted as people, terrified of a potential war, began frantically selling off their stocks. For Song-guk, this is a golden opportunity to purchase as many stocks as possible, and he's absolutely determined to make it happen. However, Jisung, unaware of future events, looks quite taken aback by Song-guk's sudden obsession with buying stocks out of nowhere. Song-guk suggests they invest in defense stocks, then lies back on the floor, declaring he won't eat unless Jisung agrees to follow his plan. Sounding worried, Soyoung asks what they should do, pointing out that Song-guk is serious and might refuse food if his demands aren't met soon. Jisung whispers to Soyoung that they should pretend to buy stocks to stop Song-guk's tantrum, but Song-guk, far too clever for such tricks, warns his father not to underestimate his determination. Jisung realizes he's out of options and asks if buying just one share will suffice, to which Song-guk nods in agreement. With a heavy sigh, Jisung lies back on the floor, vowing with resolute eyes to protect his family no matter what challenges lie ahead. A few days later, at the Samjin Hotel, John's postponed birthday party is now in full swing with festive decorations. Song-guk, along with his mother, the landlady, and his younger brother, arrive and find the grand hall adorned beautifully with soothing music filling the air. Seeing such an extravagant venue, Soyoung's jaw drops wide open in awe, unable to believe all this is for a 10-year-old's birthday celebration. However, Song-guk isn't the least bit impressed, as his own 10th birthday party in his previous life was far more extravagant than this. Soyoung asks if they should go inside, and Song-guk, murmuring in agreement, leads the way into the hall, where they overhear guests discussing fears of a potential war due to the chairman's passing. Secretary Yang and a young boy approach to greet them, and Yang, shaking Soyoung's hand warmly, says he was eagerly awaiting their arrival at the event. The boy introduces himself as Cheol-soo, whom Song-guk instantly recognizes from his past life as someone he used to care for deeply. With a warm smile, Cheol-soo extends his hand, and Song-guk shakes it politely in return. Now acquainted, Cheol-soo turns and leads Song-guk toward the center of the party, and Song-guk follows willingly without any resistance. Just then, a streak of long hair flashes past Song-guk, stunning him in place as he recognizes it belongs to a girl named Jong-hee. Completely shocked by her presence, Song-guk blurts out her name, prompting Cheol-soo to ask how he knows who she is. Looking slightly embarrassed, Song-guk explains he's seen Jong-hee somewhere before and that's how he recognized her face. To be precise, this girl is none other than Song-guk's first love from his past life, the woman he deeply loved but couldn't be with in the end. Song-guk had dreamed of marrying her, but when her father's company faltered during the IMF crisis, Song-guk's father offered financial help on the condition she break up with Song-guk, and she agreed. This felt like a betrayal for money, which Song-guk resented, but now, in this life, he understands Jong-hee was only trying to protect her family. Letting go of these memories, Song-guk tries to move forward, but someone trips him with their foot, causing him to lose balance and crash onto the floor with a thud. Seeing her son fall, Soyoung shouts in alarm, asking if he's okay and rushing toward him. Secretary Yang kneels down to ensure Song-guk is alright after his unexpected fall. Meanwhile, Song-guk, slightly scraped on his chin and filled with frustration, looks up to see who tripped him and spots John, his past life brother and the birthday boy, standing with arms crossed and a disdainful expression. With a shrug, John says there's nothing special about Songguk to warrant his father's high praise and insists he doesn't belong at the party. But before he can say more, Songguk leaps up and gives him a powerful blow across his face, catching him off guard. Seeing this unexpected scene, both Soyoung and Secretary Yang are shocked and shout for Songguk to stop his actions immediately. Quickly grabbing him from behind, Soyoung asks Songguk why he attacked first, to which he points at John and insists that John tripped him deliberately. While helping John to his feet, Secretary Yang asks if he started the fight, but John angrily snaps that Songguk is lying about the whole incident. Cheol-soo, who saw everything happen, speaks up truthfully and informs everyone that John intentionally tripped Songguk, causing John to lash out at him in frustration. Soyoung tries to calm Songguk down, explaining he shouldn't fight back no matter what, but Songguk yells angrily that John deserved it for his actions. From his previous life's experiences, Songguk knows well how much of a bully John is, supported by his wealthy father's influence and status. In this life, Songguk is determined to teach this troublesome kid a lesson and ensure he doesn't belittle others who seem less powerful. Secretary Yang tells John to stop causing trouble and warns that his father will be displeased if he hears about this disruptive behavior. Songguk observes John's expression shift at the mention of his father and realizes that even in this life, John is intimidated by him. Wrapping her arms around Songguk, Soyoung pulls him into a warm hug, asking if he's hurt from the fall and if she should apply ointment to his scraped knee. John overhears this, sees a mother caring for her son, and tugs on Yang's sleeve, asking when his own mother will arrive at the party. Yang responds that John's mother is busy at work and will arrive a little late to the celebration. Feeling neglected since neither of his parents arrived early, John starts crying loudly, shouting that he hates this birthday party and feels alone. Yang helps John sit at a table alone and tries to soothe him, while Songguk and his family sit nearby, where Soyoung expresses sympathy that John is alone on his birthday. With a heavy sigh, the landlady admits it's sad that John's parents aren't thoughtful enough to attend their own child's birthday celebration. Only Songguk knows the reason, as in his past life, his mother was consumed with caring for his prominent politician grandfather, while his father was preoccupied with his business associates and never prioritized birthdays. Unlike John, Songguk back then didn't care if his parents attended, as he was thrilled with the lavish food, drinks, and mingling with top figures from politics and business. But John desperately wants his parents' love and attention, and seeing him cry like a baby, Songguk feels more irritated than sympathetic toward him. Grabbing a microphone, Yan addresses the guests, expresses gratitude for their attendance, and calls the food department to begin serving everyone at the party. He announces there will be a special performance and invites the idols to take the stage for their entertaining act. Seeing the idols, Songguk is shocked, stops eating his food, and stares at them in complete surprise. Meanwhile, Cheol-soo goes wild with excitement, cheering loudly for the idols, overjoyed to see them perform at the party. The three idols take their microphones and begin performing, and while the women seem captivated and enjoy the singing, Songguk cringes, finding it dull and unappealing. On the other hand, Secretary Yang breathes a sigh of relief, glad he managed to restore order to the chaotic party atmosphere. While the celebration continues in full swing, Songguk notices John still sitting alone, his body trembling as big tears roll down his cheeks. Though Songguk dislikes John, seeing him in such distress makes him angry at John's parents for still not arriving at the event. A few minutes later, John's parents finally arrive, and their presence causes everyone to pause their activities and greet them respectfully. Jae-hyung spots Songguk and expresses genuine pleasure at seeing him attending the party. His wife also notices Songguk, asks if he's the kid Jae-hyung mentioned, and with a cool tone remarks that Songguk is somewhat cute. Songguk dislikes the tone she used to call him cute and realizes she's still the stern woman he knew from his past life, unchanged in demeanor. John stops crying and tries to get his mother's attention, but she dismisses him and warns him not to cause a scene at the party. This family feels cold and distant, lacking any warmth or love between parents and child, consumed by their focus on wealth and accomplishments. Songguk feels deeply grateful to have a warm, loving family in this life, unlike that distant, unfeeling one from before. Fast forward to the summer of 1995, Songguk is now 5 years old, lying in a hospital bed, appearing to be in a deep coma. That's a wrap for today's recap. Drop a billionaire in the comments if you made it this far. See you in the next one.